Hello and welcome. I am so excited to be hosting the first ever Visibility Breakthrough live stream. I am Jessica Rhodes. I'm the founder of Interview Connections, and today we are going to inspire you, motivate you, and teach you all about how to use podcast guesting to heal your past, grow your business, and be seen for the first time ever. I am going to be joined by so many incredible speakers today. We are starting right now, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and we're going to be actually live streaming till probably 2 p.m. So I'm super, super pumped. Settle in, get ready. First up, we have Tracy Plescourt. Hi, Tracy. Welcome to the Visibility Breakthrough live stream. I'm so excited to have you here. Oh, let me unmute you. Okay. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, it might be more effective if they can hear me. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here. You were one of the women who actually inspired this live stream. You came on to our Q&A session last week on Tuesday. And I mean, you had reached out to Margy, our CEO, and I about this experience you're having as a podcast guest, how it's growing your business, how you're growing. And I woke up on Wednesday just like really inspired to go live and share your story and so many other amazing women and clients that we have at Interview Connection. So for everyone watching, will you tell them just a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah. So my name is Tracy Plescourt. I am the founder of Self-Made You. I'm a former advertising executive turned life coach, and I now use my platform to teach people how to create results that they never thought possible. And often that starts with overcoming some of these obstacles that they have carried with them throughout their entire life. Sometimes it's, being overweight. It's learning how to stop overeating or stop over drinking to get to that place where they can finally create things that they thought were impossible or maybe never even on their radar. And so, yeah, it has been only through my own challenges that I've overcome. And now the creation of things that blow my own mind that I now can kind of step forward and help other people. So I tend to coach more often on the things that, I'm very familiar with, like overeating, over drinking, and then building businesses. And I find so much reward in teaching people kind of a methodology, a framework for doing those things. So yeah, Self-Made You was birthed about 2 years ago, and we have extraordinary examples of what it looks like to be self-made. And I get to bring people onto my podcast and allow them to share their stories. And then through Interview Connections, I have been booked on so many phenomenal podcasts to be able to share my story and hopefully inspire other people that, you can take responsibility for your unintentional and intentional results, and you can create things that maybe have never even been on your radar or that you've always thought maybe were impossible for you to actually achieve. And so, yeah, I'm so glad that I met you and Margy, and I always feel very compelled to reach out to you, especially being inspired through some of your podcasts, some of the lives that you do, to just share with you what a difference being on these podcasts have made for me. And often that difference is something that, I wouldn't have thought of. I wouldn't have thought as a value on the front end. I think, what most people think of when they think of a booking agency is just get me on those podcasts because I'm looking to grow my audience. That's the end game. And it has really provided so much more value than that. And so every time I recognize yet another value add, I want to reach out and tell you guys all about it. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. And I think of those little extra value adds that you don't think of initially when you start getting booked on podcasts, I think of those as visibility breakthroughs.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I was inspired to have you come speak and be our opening keynote here, is that you do dive so much into, our podcast. You've binged Margy's blog, margy.com. Go check it out, everyone. And you really do. I always tell people you get out of this what you put into it, and you're getting so much out of it because you're putting your heart into it. You're putting your mind into it. So again, the tagline of this event is how podcast guesting can heal your past, grow your business, and be seen for the first time ever. What aspect of that do you want to talk a little bit about? Can you share how it's helping you be seen? Can you share a little bit more how it's growing your business? Has it helped you heal your past by sharing about your story? What do you feel called to share with our audience today?
Well, yes, and yes.
Okay, cool.
I guess I would say healing my past is definitely an area that I would not have expected podcasting to support or to encourage. Quite honestly, I don't know if I even knew I had a past that needed to be healed. So I would say, first and foremost, it really started to shine a light on that. And that sounds a little dramatic. I'm sure everybody who's listening is like, ooh, tell me about, the trauma. And I think we all have trauma in our past. And a lot of that is, the way we feel about that has us showing up in a way that creates our experience. And whether that's happening unintentionally or intentionally is where we need to, shine a light. We need to have an awareness of why we are getting the results in our life. And the sole purpose of having that awareness is so that we can have the choice of whether we want to continue to create that for ourselves. So I'm not suggesting that, you should reframe your thinking into more of a positive way to create something. Like, it's not necessarily the power of positive thinking. It's an awareness around how you are creating your experiences through what it is that you're thinking. And is there an opportunity to focus maybe more on another truth so that you feel different and you show up different? So for example, I had all sorts of thoughts about my past in my very younger past, like my ability to succeed in school or my ability to succeed in sports, because I was overweight as a child. And I really had no idea how many thoughts I was carrying forward into my adulthood, into my business, that were making me feel inadequate. They were making me feel like unworthy. And I had no idea that had such a strong hold on me, and that was actually keeping me from growing my business or scaling my business to the extent possible. And it actually was through being interviewed on so many different podcasts where they wanted to know more about me. I thought I was going to come onto these podcasts and just talk about my business and what it can do for other people, and to give people, applicable examples, really show them in the moment, which I love doing. And it really started to catch me off guard when these hosts were saying, tell me about you. Tell me why you got into this business. And they would dig deeper with questions that made me reflect on my past, like my childhood. And I was like, wow, there are some thoughts that I'm carrying forward, because as humans, we're pretty good at recognizing what it is that we're feeling, positive or negative or wanted or unwanted feelings. We're pretty good. We're also pretty good at declaring or articulating what results we're getting in our life, right? What we're not so good at is understanding the why we're feeling the way we are and the how we are actually creating those results. And so I am a student of my own work. I've learned to be really vulnerable because I know that helps my clients. And so I shine a light on how the why and the how was eluding me too. And it continues to elude me. There's days I wake up and I fall right back into my little pity party about whatever the circumstance may be. It just takes a subtle reminder of, oh, that's right, I'm human. I'm experiencing human feelings. But when I react to those feelings, I show up in a way that creates a result that I might not want. And there's always a choice. That gives me back like all the power. So there is a methodology that we teach. It's very simple. And it ultimately gives you back the power because it gives you an awareness around kind of how the human brain works. It's working on default, reacting to a lot of fear-based thoughts. So I was bringing forward a lot of fear-based thoughts like, I'm a fraud, or I couldn't possibly help the millions of people that I want to help because I failed algebra in 8th grade. I had no idea that I was carrying those thoughts that generated inadequacy forward. And it took that awareness, that realization to be like, okay, so that's one way to tell that story. And when I tell the story that way, this is the result I get. I get very stunted growth. Is that what I want to continue to create for myself? And of course, the answer is no, but that no comes with a lot of discomfort. Like, no, I don't want to keep creating this for myself. And I'm willing to be uncomfortable to create something that my mind might not even be able to like wrap itself around right now. And so I very vulnerably started to share those kind of stories because I think that those kind of stories really matter. People can relate to them. And I think when you have this awareness of, and an awareness of how this is human nature to respond that way, and you start to understand yourself, you also kind of crack the door open on, okay, how can I create something different without judgment, without playing in that sandbox of I'm bad, there's something fundamentally wrong with me. It's like, no, I'm just human. I have that part of my brain that's going to create fear-based thoughts. The difference is I don't want to react to them any longer and keep creating this result. I want to respond to them. And that looks so different and it's not hard to do. So yeah, I think, being very vulnerable, sharing my story has healed me in ways I never thought possible. And hopefully really landed with other people where they saw the possibility of taking that responsibility for unintentional, intentional results and deciding, making the choice. I want to continue or I don't want to continue creating this experience.
Yeah, that was so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I agree completely. I love that you said you're a student of your own work. I am the same. I'm a client of my own business. I go on podcasts and, I've personally experienced so much healing as well through doing podcast interviews because, you grow as a business owner, you grow as an entrepreneur. So while, for the last 10 years, I've been talking about podcast guesting, the way those interviews sound now versus 8 years ago are totally different because they're coming to listeners in the context of where I'm at right now as an entrepreneur and where our business is at. So, for example, I was on a podcast recently with David Ralph and he interviewed me a long time ago. He interviewed me in the very early days of Interview Connections, and then he had me back on. And it was so healing to be able to share the journey I've been on because very rarely do we actually, unless you're getting interviewed on podcast, do we have the opportunity to just actually share the journey. We're always in it. We're doing it. We're doing the things. We're growing. Like we may reflect on a breakthrough with like a business bestie or a business partner or maybe a coach, but very rarely do we have that 30, 45, 60 minutes to fully share the journey, share the lessons learned with somebody who's genuinely curious. Mm-hmm. And there's something that feels so good about being in a conversation with someone who's genuinely curious about you. It brings so much like love and connection into your life. And that is really what you get when you're getting interviewed on podcasts. You're intentionally putting yourself into a space where somebody's genuinely curious and asking you questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amen. And yeah, there's something healing within within that, just being heard, being seen. Yeah. And I think it really kind of shines a light on how our imagination of our past, when we're asked to reflect back on our past, how our imagination starts to like fill in the gaps that create this story that, isn't it interesting that we're actually living by? And, if that's working for you, if that generates feelings of empowerment, of confidence, that's great. But if you start to notice that it's generating feelings of defeat or, unworthiness, then you also have this beautiful opportunity. It's such a gift to know that, that story that's coming from your past, you're reflecting on those past experiences, that memory has a lot of gaps being filled in that are coming from fear. And so, yeah, there's so many gifts in being asked those questions to tell your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Tracy, where can our viewers here connect with you and learn more about your coaching and everything you do?
Yeah, they could go to my website. It's selfmadeyou.com. So it's SELF-MADE, and then it's the letter U. We really focus, our mission is to teach people how to self-coach by following our methodology. I love the fact that people lean into using a life coach, but my ultimate objective is to teach people how to self-coach. So we're teaching one primary skill. And if you go to selfmadeyou.com, we've got quizzes, pop quizzes on there. One right now that's getting just a ton of attention is understanding kind of your hidden healthy habits. Maybe those are habits that could really be fired up, like turned up a notch, so that you can lose weight, get to your ideal weight. And through that, we also offer a 5-day free challenge that takes you through the methodology that we teach. So yeah, lots of great free resources there. That's where I would encourage people to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tracy. And thank you for coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, don't go anywhere because we are still going to be with you all afternoon today. I'm going to be bringing on Britt, who is one of our client coaches. Hi, Britt.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How amazing was Tracy?
Oh my God. It's such a pleasure to listen to Tracy talk about her experience and all the good that, visibility and podcasting has kind of brought her. Especially since I am Tracy's client coach. I was just smiling from ear to ear the whole time, listening to her share her experience. So absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So Britt is on the Interview Connections team. She actually hosted our company pride picnic on Friday, which was so fun. So you should check out our socials. You can see we got together. We collected so many donations for Youth Pride, which is a local nonprofit here in Providence that supports LGBTQI people under 23. So thank you, Britt, for hosting that.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And so here, Tracy, as she mentioned, is a client of ours at Interview Connections. We book her on podcasts and provide the coaching and mentorship for her to have these breakthroughs that she's talking about. It's not just getting on podcasts that provides the breakthroughs. It really is the mentorship and support you get from your coach. And we provide coaches to our clients. So as Britt mentioned, she's Tracy's client coach. So what does it look like, the coaching side of our agency service here at Interview Connections? Britt, can you talk a little bit about what that, if a client comes on and we're booking them a podcast, what does it look like for them to get coaching and mentorship from you?
Yeah. So first and foremost, it's really about, providing that support for our clients. Obviously, our service is really kind of customized, we meet you where you're at. So if you are kind of like a podcast pro, you've been on shows before, that the kind of coaching that you're going to get from me might look a little bit different than somebody who's, just kind of starting out. So, it's a lot of kind of just talking and seeing kind of what areas, our clients really feel feel they need support in, and kind of diagnosing from there. But also it's just kind of like those built-in check-ins where, we get a chance to talk to each other once a month and kind of talk about, like, how are you feeling about this? What kind of thoughts are coming up? What kind of experiences are you having? And it's a lot of that inner work that I'm kind of helping to facilitate. So that's really cool. So like for Tracy, for example, I did an interview audit with her pretty early on in her journey with us. And basically I listened to one of her podcasts. I took a lot of notes. I told her what she did really well on. I told her some areas where she could improve. And now she feels more confident. And I mean, I'll probably be putting some words in her mouth, but we had a great, session where we talked about her interview topics, her questions, and everything. So it's really rewarding for me to kind of track that progress and see kind of like all the amazing things that come to our clients from podcasting, and just to be able to be there and celebrate them and support them when they need it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, getting interviewed on podcasts is such a transformational growth opportunity, as you heard from Tracy, and as you're going to hear from so many of our speakers today. And so that's why we've created our service as it is. It's part done for you, where we're booking you on targeted podcasts, and you're getting the coaching and mentorship support to help you really grow through this journey, because you could go get interviewed on podcasts. And if you don't have that coach, I mean, Britt's been working with Interview Connections for multiple years. She's been personally mentored and coached by myself, by Margy. She knows a lot about this strategy and also the personal development side of growing as an entrepreneur by getting interviewed on podcasts. As Tracy said, there's something really valuable and special about having someone who is seeing you and hearing you. So when you're a client of Interview Connections, we're booking you on podcasts, and then you have that built-in monthly call with your client coach. It could be Britt, it could be Gabby, it could be John, or another member of our team. And that person is listening to you. How's it going? How are you feeling? How are the interviews? How do you feel about the topics? Do you want to change up what we're pitching you as an expert in? Which of the shows did you really, really connect with? Which of the shows maybe wasn't a love connection? And do we need to look at how we're positioning you? The interview audit. So there's so much coaching and mentorship and support that we include in our program, because we've just seen that over the years. I mean, I founded Interview Connections in 2013. We're not, this is not our first rodeo. We know all about podcast guesting and booking on podcasts. And we found that as clients get coached and mentored through the journey, it's not just growing their businesses, it's growing them. It's creating transformation. It's creating these visibility breakthroughs. Something that Britt is really brilliant in, she gives the best tough love. And I mean that, like, I'm going to explain what I mean. And I have some other speakers coming on who will share a little bit about that. But sometimes you can get yourself caught in like analysis paralysis. You get stuck in perfectionism. So when a client comes on, we're making their one sheet in the beginning. We're having an intake process to really get to know them. And sometimes those, we have clients that can really get stuck and they're like, it's not right. It's not perfect. Don't start pitching me yet. Britt, can you talk a little bit about how you lovingly move people out of that perfectionism like trap?
Absolutely. I think, coming into a program like ours, there's a lot of kind of unknown, right? There's like, well, what if they don't like me? Like, what if my message doesn't land? What if like I don't get any bookings, that are good for my business? And there's a lot of scary feelings that kind of come up, especially in a program where you're investing a lot of time into it. It can feel really kind of stressful. So obviously it's natural at the beginning to really want to like step out with your best foot forward. I think especially entrepreneurs, they are entrepreneurs for a reason. They are the ones that are in control of their business. They're the boss. So to kind of let go of that authority a little bit, it can bring up a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
But, I try to remind our clients that they're in really good hands. We're not going to send anything out into the world that doesn't feel exactly right for them. But at the same time, there's a lot of growing and changing and tweaking and adjusting that is just a natural part of this process. And so 9 times out of 10, it's better to just start, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. I think you can put a lot of time and energy into making your one sheet. You know, I've had a couple of clients where our discovery process, our first month is really just supposed to be a month at max. You know, typically it should be more efficient. It should be 2 weeks, you know, as long as we're in communication with our new clients and, you know, we really do form those bonds and we really do understand each other. We really shouldn't be spending more than, you know, maybe 4 hours kind of like just looking at the one sheet and making it feel like you, because you're going to learn that as you go through this and as you start getting interviewed, those topics, those questions, they're maybe going to feel out of alignment, or maybe some of them are going to feel really good and really in alignment. And you don't know until you try. So you just have to go out and do it, because you're just, you know, that's money on the table that you're just kind of leaving behind. You know, you need to get out there. So that's kind of what I try to tell my clients, is that don't be scared. Like, I've got you. I'm right here. You know, we'll make it work. So
yeah. I love that. And we have a question in the chat. What does your program cost? So we have 2 main packages of bookings. The monthly installment payment price is $2,500 a month. There's significant discounts if you pay in full. So if you're interested, go to interviewconnections.com/contact. All you have to do is fill out a very brief form, and you can schedule a call with myself or a member of our team, and we'll talk through really what's possible for you and what booking package would be a good fit for you to commit to. I want to share something that Margy talks about, and she has been really instrumental in coaching so many business owners to really take action to get out there, because this is a very common trap: perfectionism, being afraid to really get visibility for the amazing ideas that you have. And I want to quote it, because I want to make sure I do it justice. She says, when you're growing a business, you have these seeds of ideas that are really great, but until you're visible and until you speak them externally to your audience, those seeds will not grow. Those seeds will not grow until you plant them in the minds of your audience. You are growing and co-creating your business with your audience. Just like a flame without oxygen goes out right away, your message will die if it's not shared with your audience. And she said that so beautifully. I wanted to quote her directly. You have these seeds of ideas. You have these great topics. You have this great expertise. And if you don't let it die in captivity, she said, you know, don't stay in the intake process forever. Don't stay, oh, I'll work with Interview Connections later, you know, when my messaging is perfect. It is actually in the process of getting visibility for your amazing ideas that they grow and transform your business and transform your life. Another question in the chat, Rachel asked, what if my infrastructure isn't on brand any longer, like my website and such? Rachel, this is a really, really good question, because a lot of people will, that will be the reason to not get visibility, right? My website isn't on brand. I need to improve it. And I'll say a lot of our clients are getting leads and clients, people that hear them on a podcast that reach out directly to them. So I love podcast guesting for business owners who don't feel like their website is perfect yet, because people hear you on a podcast and they're kind of like ready to work with you without going through your whole website. So the website, you know, in my opinion, the website's job is to really educate people about who you are, to educate people on what your business does. You're doing all of that through the podcast interview. So you don't actually need to worry too much. And also, you know, in 9 years, I've probably done a revamp of interviewconnections.com, like major revamps, maybe 3 or 4 times. It's like every couple of years, you just do like a complete overhaul. It's a long ass process. I don't know if I can curse on Facebook Live, but it is overhauls and rebrands take for flipping ever. Do not let that be the reason you don't get visibility for your business, because that you will never get visibility if you're waiting for your brand to be updated. Now, if you have specific questions, Rachel, fill out the form at interviewconnections.com/contact, and we can obviously talk to you one-on-one. I'm giving a general overview to this question, but we can, you know, talk to you, you know, one-on-one. So we have our next speaker in the wings. So I'm so excited to bring her on. Britt, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. All right. We have Melissa Keenan. I am so excited to have you here.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much. We are live. We are chatting all about visibility breakthroughs, and you have been so visible with your business. I every day I go on Facebook and I see you sharing these incredible posts. You're getting interviewed, you're sharing so authentically and vulnerably. You're featuring other women CEOs in your Facebook live stream, and I was like, can you please come on my live stream, because your story and how you show up to the world is in perfect alignment with the theme of this live stream. So, first, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to our viewers here.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Melissa Keenan. I serve business professionals and business owners with intimacy and mastering their masculine and feminine energy. So I've been doing this for about 4 years now, and throughout the journey have become a USA Today bestselling author and international bestselling author. Yeah, it's been so much fun, and I think that what grounds me and what I always come back to is, even with fluctuations in business or the chaos spinning in the world, I'm really dedicated to my own family and my own intimacy and my own balance of masculine and feminine energy. So I live in Reno, Nevada, and I've got 4 kids and a lovely husband, and that's where my heart is.
I love that. So the topic of today's live stream is about how podcast guesting can heal your past, grow your business, and be seen for the first time ever. And one of the things that inspired me to have you come on is when Margy was, booking guests for the next season of her podcast, which is called We Get It, Your Dad Died. Reached out to our team and you're like, I really want to go on Margy's podcast and share my story of my dad. And I would love for you to share about the experience of being interviewed about something really close to you in your past, right? That interview wasn't necessarily like, here's what I do in my business. And you did talk about that, but it was I was crying listening to it because it was just so raw and so vulnerable. And it was such a gift to the world. And would love for you to share more about the impact that interview had on you giving it.
I loved doing that so much. How to quantify that experience? I am feeling a little at a loss for words, but I I believe in leading as a business owner with the truth of who I am, and I believe in serving people with real connection, because the nature of my work, maybe I would feel differently if I was selling vacuum cleaners, but the nature of my work is such that, like, it is deep. It is about heart and soul, and I find, even with my clients, it doesn't matter what you're selling, that people want to know what's in your heart. So for me, doing that interview felt so amazing, almost like no other podcast interview will ever compare. It was my favorite. And if I could just share at that level on every podcast, I would feel so great. I loved doing that. And I think for me personally, it was super healing. When my dad died when I was 12, I didn't have emotional support at home. It was sort of like, don't keep that away. Cry in your closet. Don't cry in the family or in public. But I found that writing and speaking about what had happened to me was the only way that I could feel some sort of relief. So I would write and speak about it as if it was happening to this character named Francesca. And any time I got an assignment to free write or whatever, it was always about Francesca and what happened to her and her dad. And so, obviously that was a long time ago. My dad died in 2000, but being able to like speak like that about it again in this way, when now it's sort of like, oh yeah, your dad died a long time ago, I'm sure you're over that or whatever. It's like, actually, it's literally with me every moment of every day. It's just something that doesn't go away. You just get used to sort of that cavity, that open like space that's just always there. So it was so yeah, I'm at a loss for words about what it was like.
Yeah. And I just want to encourage everyone to listen to that, because it's so difficult to even put words to the experience. And I'm so grateful to you for coming on and even coming and not having words for it, because just your presence here and your energy it speaks volumes. Margy with a hard G.com/Melissa is where folks can find it. So we'll put that in the comments. But yeah, Margy calls it, I wrote it down because I'm like, oh, that's really good. It's like human-centered content. There's something so powerful about being present with each other's humanity, she says. And that's really what this, her podcast brings. And so many podcasts, Margy's podcast is the top for you. It's your favorite, but your favorite interview, but there's so many podcasts where as a business owner, you have that opportunity to provide human-centered content to market your business while keeping your humanity and who you are at the present. And I want you to share a little bit more about like what you do with clients, how you work with people, who your clients are, because I think by folks really understanding what you do in your business, we'll see why human-centered marketing is so important for you.
Yeah. So I work with primarily high-level business women, and they come in for various different reasons. They may be in various different stages in relationships, in their personal relationships, but the work is this merging of your business and your personal life. It's like actually ditching all the compartmentalization that you felt you had to do and really embracing I'm a whole person, and what I do anywhere is what I do everywhere. And so she may come to me as a single person that, she's dating. It's later in her life. She hasn't married and she wants to marry, or she's single because she's been divorced. Or she may come to me in marriage already, and maybe there's been trust that was broken, or trust that was broken from a previous relationship that still spills over into her current relationship. All of these kinds of things actually do affect our business. So rather than just only focusing on the relationship and being like, your business is for somebody else to help you with or whatever, it's a holistic space. So she'll show up and she may, once we're in our coaching container, it's like she'll show up and she may just be like, I'm so stressed about what's happening over here in my business. And then we'll come to, help her have a breakthrough. I really believe that people have the answers already within them. That's extremely important to me. Like, people don't come to me to be their guru or even necessarily their consultant. I'll do a little of that, but for the most part, it's like you're the one that's the expert in your business and in your life and in your marriage or relationship. So I just help them get past the block so they can draw that wisdom out of themselves. So then maybe she has a shift around her business and now she's feeling like, oh, I can clearly see why this was happening. I can see how I was thinking about it. I have this shift. I know exactly what I want to do. And then we'll go, okay, then how does that same pattern play out in your relationships? Or she'll show up and she'll be like, oh, I'm so frustrated with my husband. And, he can't make a decision about this or that or whatever. And then again, we'll have a breakthrough there. And then we'll go, okay, how does that show up then in your business? And I think my like special, like really special place where I am with my clients is typically the places and spaces where they felt like they would never be able to heal from this one thing, or they felt like they would never be able to really share what this felt like for them, or they felt like that's kind of what I do, is go to the recesses of ourselves that we thought we had to kind of shut away, whether because they were so painful or they were so shameful or we were so embarrassed or whatever, and like really like heal in those places so that all of us can come forward, because in that space, that's when we're most powerful, most impactful, most aligned.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying about compartmentalization because, yeah, like you said, how you are in one place is how you are everywhere. And yeah, I just love that. And I love bringing that into this conversation because a lot of times, you know, when I'm talking about podcast guesting and talking about what we do, it's like solely focused on business growth. And I was just like hit with this strike of inspiration about talking about visibility breakthroughs and how it helps you heal your past and how it helps you be seen because, you know, for some people, it's like if you're just working to grow your business, you're just talking about what your business does, but really to fully expand and experience expansion in your business, experience full visibility, you have to get visibility for not just your service and what you sell, but for who you are. So, Melissa, can you share a little bit more thinking about like the variety of interviews that we've booked you for, how being a podcast guest and like sharing your story, doing podcast interviews has helped you grow as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it definitely has. Showing up and committing to something like Interview Connections is it's like next level seriousness as a business owner. I don't know, now after working with several of my clients and also several mentors, I've learned that it doesn't really matter what your income level is or how like serious of a business owner the world thinks you are, that you still have days where you think, I'm just gonna get out of this. I'm just gonna burn the whole friggin' thing down and go live under a rock in Maui for the rest of my life, and I'm not gonna like face this anymore. And right, so we all have that. And so I think like showing up on Interview Connections is like saying, no, again, on another layer, I am going to declare what I came here to do and to serve and to be in the world. And it really has done that for me. It's like, I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. Another layer of, no, this is who I am, and I'm not going to burn it all down, and I am going to continue to show up.
Yeah.
And then too, just honing and refining my stories and being able to tell stories about my clients in a way that doesn't overshare. Like I
Mhm.
wouldn't even, I mean, I wouldn't want anyone to ever listen to the stories that I share and go, feel like Lauren Hill strumming my pain, like, like, oh my God, she's bearing my whole story, right? Like, because that's the work I do. But
Mhm.
yet I want people to get a sense of the journey and what's really possible, because you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
So honing and refining the ability to share those stories in a way that really relates to people. I know that I've done a really great job when the host themselves is like, oh my gosh, like I gained so much from this. You have me thinking about so many things I hadn't thought about before. That's how I end. I'm like, okay, that's really good feedback. So it's been really powerful.
I love that. I love that you're talking about really honing and refining those stories because that's another area where we see our clients have visibility breakthroughs. What holds people back from often starting as a podcast guest is feeling like their message isn't perfect. They don't know what they share, but it's actually the process of getting interviewed where you get clarity on what stories to share, on how to share them. Just practice, right? Just practice sharing them. And I love how you're talking about how hosts will end the interview like, oh my gosh, like I got so much out of that. right? Have you built some good relationships with podcast hosts and people you've met through this process?
I really have. And I've made that a high priority anyway, because I feel like if we're going to spend a period of time together in our businesses, me and the host, we may as well know each other and find out how we can help promote each other or how we can help support each other. And I'm the same with the host and stuff. So, but I also have had hosts who have been like, yeah, I actually would love to do a call with you. I'd actually love to talk some more about this and stuff. So it's been really powerful. I also think too, with podcast guesting, as opposed to public speaking or something, it feels like so much less pressure because it's just you and the host, and you can easily kind of forget that, like, oh, this is going to be broadcasted. It just feels so much more intimate. So especially when you are doing kind of intimate work like I am, and you want to share these really intimate stories, it feels really safe because it's just you and the host. And then I think that's what listeners love about podcasts is it feels like you're just in the room with the conversation, with a very intimate conversation, as opposed to being like spoken at in a large forum.
Yeah. And I love that you shared about, working with people, like you work with clients in a very, with very intimate subject matters. And, we have a lot of clients that are, coaching their clients through things that feel pretty private for most people. And if that is you to our audience, podcast guesting is a great way to get visibility for your business, because when somebody interviews you or hears you on a podcast and it feels like they're just a fly on the wall of a conversation, the amount of trust that develops, the connection, the depth of that connection is so much greater than with somebody who maybe they saw a social media post, but they don't really feel like they have a connection with that person. And I just want to commend you for that, Melissa, because, just in the time we've been working together, your way of being is such that people feel really comfortable opening up to you and talking with you. So I just want to acknowledge you for that, and just for, committing to podcast guesting, because the amount of, the relationships you're growing are just so incredible. So thank you so much for coming here. How can our viewers connect with you? If they connect with what you said, they feel like you could help them, where can they find you online?
Yeah, well, given that you're streaming this on Facebook, I'll share my Facebook group. You can just search up Women Manifesting Intimacy if you are a female business owner seeking to deepen your experience with intimacy or relationships. Other ways, you can go to my website at www.melissakeenan.com, which is MELISAKEENAN.com. And I've got a free guide there you can download. I've got my interview series all featured there, where I feature 7+ figure business women about their heart and their business. So yeah, come look me up, and I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Next up, I'm going to bring Gabby on the live stream. Hi, Gabby.
How's it going?
So good. Oh my gosh, it was so great hearing from Melissa, and you are her client coach. So I wanted you to come on. So if you're just joining us for this live stream, we're talking about visibility breakthroughs and how podcast guesting can heal your past, grow your business, and be seen for the first time ever. Gabby is actually Melissa's client coach, and Gabby's role in Interview Connections is just like Britt. She is coaching clients, talking with them, and I'm gonna actually save some of that for you to share. Talk to us, Gabby. What does it look like for when a client is working with us to get booked on podcasts, and our booking team is finding shows and booking them? What does the coaching and mentorship side of our service look like when they're working with you?
I think the coaching aspect is one of the most special parts of this whole company, just because a lot of people assume that we're a podcast booking agency. What we do is we get you on podcasts and that's the end of it, right? But the coaching is really just like the sustenance of this whole strategy, right? It's learning about how to make podcast guesting work for you and how to grow your business, grow as a speaker and a person, and really just branch out there. So there are a few different aspects we can lean into in our coaching calls. We can lean into, like I said, the performance of it. So how are your interview skills? How is the quality? And quality is in like sound quality. And also, are you saying ums and ahs and likes more than you should? Or are your stories really impactful, or are they just fluff? Because you don't know exactly what to say. So really leaning into that. We can also talk about making the strategy work for you in the sense of how are you networking with hosts? How are you nurturing those relationships? Are you marketing the episodes? How impactful, memorable, efficient is your call to action? And so on and so forth. We can also talk a little more about actually growing your business as well. So it's really an amazing deal that I truly encourage all clients to take advantage of, because I understand that meeting once a month is maybe intimidating almost. You're so busy, your time is valuable, and we completely understand and respect that. But you just made an investment for yourself and your business, and you got to lean into it. So
Yes. Yeah. And Gabby has been with Interview Connections for, I think, multiple years. I mean, at least you've been around the block. You've been in multiple roles. You've been show researcher, you've been host outreach coordinator, you're a team coach, you're a client coach. So she's really seen all aspects of the company. And so she brings a lot of value to the client she's coaching. And one of the things that I've like personally heard feedback, someone's good, the service is good when like they're just coming right to the founder and they're like, I just have to tell you, I love working with Gabby. She's amazing. One of the things that you help people with, and that you also, I know you feel very proud of, I'll shout you out for it, is really helping clients get booked on the best shows for them, right? It's a little bit of a journey, right? Finding that perfect podcast, that perfect type of show where the client's like, oh my God, I feel so in alignment. Like, I'm so excited to be on this show. Can you talk a little bit about, just kind of going back to your heyday of show researching, what does that look like for clients to come on? And because I know it's a big question, like, how do I know you're going to book me on the right podcast, right? So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's multifaceted, right? There are so many layers to finding the right show and what that means. We can look at who is your ideal client and try to find those people in an audience. So who would be listening to this podcast and infer from that. We can also think about who your ideal referral partner is. And can we look for that person in the host so that they can branch out into their network? And that's already a built-in relationship, right? You're going to have an opportunity to chat with this host before, after the interview, where you can really kind of dive in, get to know them, their network, their business, and see how you can help each other. So those are two types of people, two demographics that we look into to try to find your perfect show. We also think about what types of conversations you want to be having. And this is where the trust comes into play, because if you are a relationship coach or something, and you have a certain demographic in mind, it's okay, well, what kinds of conversations are you looking to have? And maybe these conversations are not best suited for the relationship shows that you asked for. Maybe they're going to be better suited on lifestyle shows and that quality of life and really busy, high-level entrepreneurship shows, because those are the people who need to take the time to work on their relationships, So even it's really a matter of trust and collaboration, and finding those correct shows for you is learning who you want to target, how we get there, and the types of conversations that you want to have.
I love it. Yeah, it's so important to have that trust and just that open-mindedness, because podcast guesting is such a journey, right? You go into it, and I would think in business as well, right? You go into something with a result in mind. I want to do this to get clients. I want to do this to get leads. I want to do this to increase my website traffic. And you can rarely predict the actual how. You can rarely predict what exactly that journey will look like. You do your best to plan, right? You don't just go into something blind and just be like, let's see what happens. You plan, and you have to be open to course correcting and changing courses. And that's why we have our clients work with the client coach, because when the course needs to be corrected or changed, right? Whether that's the topics that you're talking about on podcasts, or the types of shows, or the stories you're sharing, having a client, a coach that we provide you with at Interview Connections is so, so important, because it's very difficult to make those course corrections just by yourself, because it's like you're in it, right? You can't read the label from inside the bottle. You have to have that external coach who's like right there with you. It's like you're playing a game, right? You're on the court, you're playing the game, but then you got to come off the court and get some coaching and guidance. And like, what do I need to do? Like, what's a different play we need to do? #sports. I'm not an athlete.
Exactly. One of my favorite questions that I encourage clients to ask when they are in the green room before the interview is, who is your audience and how can I best serve them? Yeah. Because maybe that's not going to be the exact questions that you came up with on your one sheet, but that you are just as suited to answer. And that is going to position you in such a great light, and it's going to make the host look really good as well for bringing on this person who feels like they're speaking directly to the person listening in their headphones. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It just makes the whole experience so much more personal, and that's one of the most important parts of giving a successful interview is, are the people listening feel like you're speaking to them? Can they picture themselves as your client?
Yes.
And you want them to think about that, when the podcast interview ends and they're like, you know what, I listened to this earlier, I'm going to go to their website, or I'm going to go follow through with this, whatever your call to action was. I'm going to buy their book. So
yes, amazing. So I want to encourage everyone to book a consultation call with our team. We offer a couple different packages depending on where you're at in your business, depending on how many bookings on podcasts you want. So all you have to do is go to interviewconnections.com/contact. Our monthly we have payment plans. So there's a big discount if you pay in full. The payment plan is $2,500 a month. So go to interviewconnections.com/contact. It's a very brief inquiry form where we can just get to know you a little bit. And then you can immediately schedule a consultation call with a member of our team or myself. I try to jump on as many consults as I can as my schedule allows, where we just talk a little bit about what your goals are for getting on podcasts. And we just really map out what it looks like to work with us. You get guaranteed bookings on targeted podcasts. You get an amazing client coach. You're meeting them today, Gabby, Britt, John. And when you are working with your client coach, you're out there on the court, you're getting interviewed, you're in conversation, you're getting visibility for your business. And your client coach is providing the mentorship and support that has you actually experience that transformation and those visibility breakthroughs. One thing we just talked to Britt about a half hour ago is how sometimes an entrepreneur will take action and invest and sign up with us. And then we're in the intake and all of a sudden the brakes come on and they're like, I'm not ready. My one sheet's not ready. My topic's not ready. I don't like this photo. Gabby, what role do you play as a coach when a client is just like, they had the courage and the motivation to sign up, but then when push comes to shove, when it's like, let's start pitching you, they're like, wait a second, hold on, I'm not ready yet. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would love to know kind of what is making them feel so insecure, right? They've been marketing themselves, they've been networking for likely years at this point. So what about this is intimidating them? What makes them feel like they are not ready? And then really working with them to make them feel confident. So is it the lack of clarity on what the process looks like? Is it they don't know what to do once they make a connection, or they don't know what to ask in the green room before the podcast happens, or they're not feeling good about the microphone that they have? It's like, what is that block that's making them feel insecure and not ready? Because this is why we're here. We're here to support you and to help you achieve clarity on your messaging, on your ability, and all of that. So if it's, finding a better headshot, sure, we can do that. But oftentimes I feel like it's something a little deeper than finding the right headshot, because that's something easy that we can work on together. Even if you don't have one ready to go, I can teach you how to get a great headshot on an iPhone. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's really just connecting with them and seeing what makes this so challenging for them to make this leap. Because I understand it's scary, but knowing that they are ready and they are in good hands is important.
I love that. Our team, there's so much heart in our team as well. So, I mean, Gabby's doing a beautiful job explaining it. And, depending on who you are and maybe your personality type, maybe you are like, no, like I'm not scared at all, but you also aren't getting on podcasts. So maybe there's something beneath the surface level that has you holding back. And that's why we have our clients do one-on-one coaching calls, because being able to get on Zoom one-on-one with Gabby, one-on-one with Britt, one-on-one with John, and just be like, listen, I just really don't like this photo of myself and I really don't want it on the one sheet. Cool. Like we can work with that. Like not a big deal, So that one-on-one coaching and mentorship is so critical, because it can be very scary to get visibility. And we're there to make sure that you are out there on the court, speaking about your business, sharing your story, and feeling really good and safe doing it. So Gabby, thank you for hopping on. We have our next speaker in the wings. So we'll talk to you soon, Gab.
Thank you.
Bye. Dr. Jolie Hamilton, hi.
Hi, it's nice to see you, Jess.
I am so excited. Thank you so much for coming on. You're a huge inspiration for this live stream, because I've just witnessed you have so many visibility breakthroughs, and you've been so kind you come on a lot of our workshops and master classes, and those have actually mostly been on Zoom. So I'm really excited to do this on Facebook Live and get your story out to as many people as possible. So I'm going to have you introduce yourself in a second, but for those of you just joining us here, I'm Jessica Rhodes, founder of Interview Connections, and I had like a strike of inspiration hit me last Wednesday morning, where the words visibility breakthrough just kept coming to me. And I was thinking about all these amazing clients that we have who've been sharing their story on our workshops about how podcast guesting has helped them grow. And every time they share, I learn something new, and I see an added like benefit and way that they're growing through the process of getting on podcasts. So Dr. Jolie Hamilton was one of those women that I was like, can you come on this live stream? Because like you just embody, you're so in alignment with like what I want to be teaching here. And she's the relationship coach for couples who color outside the lines. So Jolie, introduce yourself to our viewers here and share about the visibility breakthroughs you've had through podcast guesting.
Well, you definitely caught me at a good moment, because I'm having another visibility breakthrough.
Hot off the presses.
Yeah. So we've been talking about this in the mastermind that I'm in with you. You are a wonderful inspiration for me. I think that an interesting part about my story is that I'm a psychologist. I'm a depth psychologist. So I specifically care most about unconscious motivations and what runs our story underneath, and how we can expand ourselves by being aware of that, by bringing more of ourselves into consciousness. And my specialty is helping people live really bold, exciting lives, right? Like leaving monogamy and shifting to polyamory, leaving monogamy and shifting to some sort of open relationship. That's a bold move. So my depth psychological background and this great big expansive love background, I think people expect that means that I like being visible and I'm totally okay with sharing everything and I'm all out all the time. But I keep finding that there are layers to pull back here. And the most recent one has been coming up in our private group. And I've been really realizing that my professional work, I am very comfortable. Like I just heard you say with Gabby, like I'm not afraid to talk. I'm never afraid to talk about my research in jealousy or my work with couples. And I'm not even afraid to share most of my stories. But there has been this theme throughout the last 12 years of my life where I share actually to protect myself. I share parts of my story that I feel like I've processed enough so that people won't ask me about the other parts. And it's a great magic trick, right? It's very misdirective. And that's fine in most relationships. But it also leaves part of me off the table, right? I'm not bringing my full self when I show up, if that's what I'm doing. And I'm shocked to find how podcast guesting, how putting myself into these conversations with people who are going to ask me amazing, brilliant questions, who are going to stretch me and push me, but also who are going to trigger me, who are going to wake up my old wounds, like those moments, those interviews that don't go perfectly, like, oh, actually, this is probably pretty important work. Maybe it won't be the podcast that I am most excited to share with my audience, but they're often ones where I discover things about me that need to come to light. Where am I leaning in like too far and like trying to ingratiate myself to a host? That's a big one that's coming up lately, right? And it's a catch-22 because I don't think I could find that out unless I was visible. Like I have to be visible in order to find out where in the visibility I'm doing things that undermine my long-term growth and strategy. So that was a long answer to your question.
Oh, I love it though. And you're really, what I hear you saying is there's so many layers of the onion to pull back in ourselves, right? There's no destination you get to with visibility because you keep growing and then there's more layers, there's more things to discover about ourselves. So for those of you watching who haven't seen Jolie speak in one of our previous workshops or master classes, Jolie, can you give kind of the overview? When you first started working with Interview Connections, you had just had a book come out, kind of go through that story. And then I want to kind of jump to present day and some of your current breakthroughs.
Yeah. So, about 18 months ago, I had written a book, and I wrote the book relatively quickly. I wrote it during my dissertation process. So I was excited to get it to press, but I didn't have the time or the thoughtfulness to like make a strategy for the book launch because I was busy doing other things, getting my doctorate. And so I, at the last minute, connected with you. And I was one of those people who like, oh, visibility, right? I need that. I'm going to check the box by connecting with Jess. Yeah. So I signed on with you and I was like, okay, I'm launching a book. Let me talk to people. And at first it was a process of trying to figure out what it is I needed to say because I had this book. So it seemed like I should talk about the book. But very quickly, having the interviews, it became apparent that the book was important for me to write and I value it. But it's not actually the most important thing for me to talk about because I have a much grander vision of what love is and what it could be. And I wanted to talk about that. So what happened at first was I thought, I'll get on podcast guesting and I'll do that so that I can sell more books and launch a business. And I did that, but it wasn't the kind of business I necessarily wanted to run. So what happened is in the first few months, I was making a business that was adequate and it was going to work. I could fill my day-to-day schedule and therefore fulfill my budgetary needs, but I couldn't grow the business I wanted to. So at first it was like a slow walk. Okay. And then I started talking about the things I really cared about. And when I started talking about the things I actually cared about, and I started being more courageous and saying to the hosts who were connecting with me, like, yes, I have this book. And here's what else I talk about. And I started talking about things like jealousy and loving multiple people at the same time. And then the hosts were like, ooh, let's go there. And it meant I had to actually develop a business that was behind that, right? Like, so I kind of went first. I had the conversations and I was like, oh, I need to develop the back end business that supports that. So at first I wasn't necessarily having the monetary gains, the ROI that I wanted because I hadn't built the business that could receive the ROI. I had to do that. So I don't know whether other people struggle with that, but that was my problem.
That's so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to dive deeper into that because a lot of times I think we as business owners kind of expect things to be linear. I'm going to get my messaging right. I'm going to make sure my offer is right. And then I'm going to get on podcasts and then I'm going to get leads and clients and we're good. But that's rarely how it happens. We sign up, we make an investment in something, we go all in on a high ticket coach that ends up not being what we need. But by doing that, it shows us something else that we need. And then that's what we need. And it's like, it is always roundabout. You can never predict the exact linear path. So that's so interesting that, because I remember when you first signed up, I mean, I certainly can't remember the exact topics, but I don't think you were really talking too much about non-monogamy. And that is like, that's you. Like,
I wasn't. Yeah. I had actually been waved off of that topic by someone who has since exited my life. And, I very much had one of those moments of, oh, when people leave your life, it's to make room for the people you actually need to have in your life. And so I had been waved off of the idea that I should talk directly to a non-monogamous audience or talk to people about specifically, I'm even more specific than that, people who are monogamous now but would really like something more or something different, right? Like that's a niche. And a lot of my early exposure around this was like, oh, that's going to be too niche, or oh, that's going to put people off. Just talk about love, talk about relationships. And it wasn't helpful. It wasn't helpful because it didn't actually have me building that business. So yeah, I guess I could have taken that linear path that had been laid out, but it was somebody else's path for somebody else's business. It wasn't actually the one I wanted to be running, and it wasn't going to be fun. It might have even been successful in a dollars and cents perspective, because I can help those people. It's even fun for a while, but I really like more complicated situations, and that gets me jazzed up. So when I talked to you about niching down again, when I decided to really get even more specific and I started to go all in on, yeah, I'm for the non-monogamous folks or the people who think they want to be, that let me release from the idea that just because a particular host wants to talk about monogamy or a particular podcast is about that, if I can't find my angle where I can talk to in my niche, then yeah, it's not the right fit. But interestingly, it often is. Often the people want to talk about something new. And I needed to be the bold one who was like, no, I'm going to put my flag in the sand. This is what I'm doing. This is what I talk about. And even though I have experienced hurts and being left out of things in the past, I'm going to claim this as my space anyways, even though it's scary to claim that more narrow niche.
Yeah. And there was such a powerful shift that happened when you really claimed consensual non-monogamy as you really put that stake in the ground. I mean, we're booking you on podcasts, so you're getting that regular visibility on what we're booking you through. But then I feel like that when you really claimed that space and that niche, you started getting like so many more incoming interview requests, like podcast hosts that we didn't book you on were reaching out, and like major media outlets. So just talk about like, what are some of the big media publications that have like reached out to you to quote you?
Yeah, so that was an interesting sort of unexpected additive bonus. I thought that it was possible that I would become a resource for reporters down the line, but I didn't know what the road in was. Like I'd put my name out there, but that being a generalist just doesn't help them. They need somebody who's specific. So what I had been doing was talking about jealousy over and over and over again. And when I talked about jealousy, even to a monogamous audience, like that started planting some seeds. And then when I shifted and I was like, yep, I talk about jealousy from the non-monogamous perspective, or from that shift of paradigms perspective, like what do I do about jealousy if I want to shift paradigms? That led to connecting. I had a contact from NPR who wound up including me in this wonderful piece that they did about jealousy and how to work with it. And they actually weren't talking about non-monogamy. They were just saying, hey, you know that there's an opposite of jealousy and it's called compersion, and now anybody could use it. And they made me into this adorable little graphic, and it was just so yummy to be included in something that was for a broad mainstream audience based off the fact that I had niched down. Yeah. Fascinating. And, my latest feature was in Vogue, and that was really amazing. I had no idea that was going to happen. The author, Michelle Ruiz, wrote this great piece on what happens if more people know that they don't have to do monogamy. They could choose something else. And she interviewed me and my anchor partner. And that interview never would have happened if I hadn't had all of these hundreds of other interviews behind me under my belt, because I mean, that piece was for the New York Times and Vogue. I've done New York Times, Vogue, and NPR. Those pieces, they need somebody who they know they can trust to be out too. Like, they call me afterwards and like, can we really write this? Can we really say you said this? Because it feels edgy to them. I don't think I would have been able to say yes to that, except I'd already said these things for smaller audiences. I had built up my endurance and stamina to stand there and say, yep, that's me talking about my orgasms live. Sure. Yeah, that's me.
I love that. You built up your endurance and your stamina in these smaller audiences. It's so true, because there is something that feels very safe about sharing it on a podcast where you're like, yeah, my family definitely won't listen to this show, so you get that practice.
Right. Yeah. The premise of like going on smaller shows, I had heard you talk about it, but it pays off in a lot of ways. There is your podcast audience will get to know you better because they're already dedicated to the host if they're listening to this smaller show. But also, those hosts often ask less usual questions. They ask me questions off the beaten path. They're not trying to get an overview, right? So when I do these big media interviews, they're often trying to take broad strokes. So I'm talking in this very open, broad way about a big topic, and that's great and important. And I'm super glad I get to do those interviews. But the little interviews are juicy and help me discover what my next thread is. Where is my research going from here? Where is my work with clients going from here? And that actually has helped me to deliver better products too. Like, I've developed new offers based on the fact that people are asking me different questions than I thought they would. And if that's the question they have, then I want my business to answer that question.
Totally. That's such a unexpected benefit of podcast guesting is offer ideas, because a lot of times as business owners, we create the package and the offer that we think people want because it's probably what we would buy. And then you get into conversation after conversation, interview after interview, and you realize, oh, my target audience actually needs something different. So then you can create an offer around it.
Totally. Like, over and over again, I was getting questions from people who were like, how would I talk about this in public? How would I come out? How would I, even if I were interested, or sometimes I would have a host who says, okay, I've done that in the past. I've been consensually non-monogamous, but I never came out. I never talked about it. And so I wound up creating a year-long program that's a group container. So people can start practicing being out and talking about it with other people in a smaller, safer environment. Because I love doing private coaching. That's wonderful. But it continues to silo the couple, right? It continues to keep us in that space of, okay, but I don't have to really own this as part of my life. And that was where my wound was. That, if you zoom back 13 years ago, I felt like I had to get crammed down and stay inside a tiny little container of acceptability in order to be myself. Like, I had to stay really small. So creating a group container where people can practice like stretching out into, okay, maybe it is safe to say that I love more than one person. Maybe it is safe to say, I don't know exactly what my marriage will look like 6 months from now, but I'm excited to go on this journey with my partner. I'm excited to see where this takes us, and practice saying that in a group of, 5 or 6 or 7 people before you take that to, say, your in-laws, before you take that to your workplace, right? Yeah. And I never would have known to create that offer if I hadn't been hearing from hosts over and over again, like, oh my God, that must be so scary.
Oh, that's so interesting. I love that. And then the other thing, so you've been you've just been such a dream client. We love working with you. And one of the things that you really take advantage of is the client network at Interview Connection. So I've talked a little bit over the last hour about the client coaches that we have and the coaching and mentorship. And I know that you take advantage of that. Obviously, you coach directly with us. You're in our mastermind. Yeah. the thing I want to talk about a little bit right now is our client network. You come to our client networking calls, and I can think of specific networking calls where, as you were making this shift, you were able to get that feedback from other members of the call. And I've seen like literally other clients of Interview Connections hear you kind of talk about the shift in the messaging and the niching, and then being like, I'm gonna DM you.
Right.
Can you talk about the value and what you've gotten out of the client network? Also, like the referral partners, right? Other relationship coaches that work with monogamous couples, and how you've partnered up with people.
Yeah. And other wellness workers. Actually, I think every really deep connection I have right now, every collaborative partner I have right now has come from this network. And I think that one of the reasons why is because inside of the program, we're all walking through, we're walking through getting visible too. So there is a certain bravery that comes without bravado. That's something that I don't think can be overstated. I've been in a lot of networking spaces, and a lot of times I meet people who are like, they're brash and they have a lot of bravado, and so they'll go out anywhere. But what I meet in our networking calls is people who are humble. They're able to own the fact that they're in a growth process all the time, no matter how far they've gotten. And so I've made great connections with people who I've done workshops with. We refer to each other. We've done email exchanges. And what we're doing is growing. I'm growing the world I want to be in by connecting to them. And a lot of times the feedback that they're able to give me in a call, for instance, when I was playing with the word creative, not monogamy, because I wanted a word that would help people who saw themselves as monogamous understand that didn't mean that the principles of consensual non-monogamy didn't apply to them. Mm-hmm. And so I just tried out the term, and I tried it out 2 calls in a row. And what I saw was when I used the phrase creative monogamy, boom, 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 smiles all over the place, right? So I've got, 19 yeses, 19, yeah, that resonates for me. When I have said that in other networking spaces, people just weren't tuned in or weren't paying attention. And so I don't really know how you've created a space where people are actually paying attention, but you did. So that's not replaceable. Like I haven't found that anywhere else. And it has helped me, learn my message, but also just connect to the people who I'm like, oh, we just care about the same things. Our specialties are very different, but we care about the same things. Elizabeth, Christoph, and I created a great program to address jealousy together. We're working on something else now. It's a great resource.
I love that. And well, you said it, and I want to echo it. The thing that everyone has in common in the Interview Connections client network, and they are networking groups. There's all types of different groups that you can invest in just for networking. And the thing that I'm really proud of that we've created here and that you talked about is that the members of our client network, they're there for networking, and they're all getting visible. They're all on that journey of visibility. And like I've been in other coaching groups and like networking style coaching groups where everyone's there to, like, let's say they're learning how to create a course. And we all have that in common. But then I look around and most of them are like purely behind the scenes. And there's just like a different vibe when we're all on that path of getting visible. Yeah, we're doing the thing, we're networking, we're growing, and we're always getting out there and getting visible. So I think that's where kind of the common thread comes from.
Right. And if nothing else, it has given us a way to talk to each other. I mean, we talk to each other about our interviews, and that has helped me figure out who the people are. So now I have like my subgroup of people. I'm like, oh yeah, we have something in common. And it's been a great way to grow my own podcast too, because now I'm connecting. So many of us are also hosts. Yeah. Now I'm connecting with other hosts. So there's like another layer to it. Again, it's all these layers where now I have a built-in group of people who care about podcasts as I grow my own podcast. Not a bad resource to have.
Yes. Speaking of which, Jolie is one of our panelists. We're speaking at She Podcasts Live, which is a conference in October in DC. I think it's shepodcastlive.com. I have an affiliate link, but I don't have like a short link for it. So just go to shepodcastlive.com. And I'm facilitating a session. It's a panel about how to use podcast guesting to grow your podcast audience. And Jolie's one of our speakers. So I'm so excited to talk more. So you guys should go to that if you are a female or a female identifying. I think men can go too, but it's She Podcasts Live. So
I got the go-to on that. Actually, they are very supportive of gender expansive individuals. Perfect. And my anchor partner is gender expansive themselves, so they'll be joining me.
Amazing.
I can't wait. That's going to be so much fun.
Yeah. So that's just a little plug. If you're a podcaster and you want to grow your audience, podcast guesting is an obvious way to do that because you get visibility to people who already listen to podcasts. You don't have to say, go listen to my podcast. By the way, you have to download this app and find, they know how to find you. So, Jolie, thank you so much for coming on. And I know you are busy and there's a lot going on right now. I really appreciate you sharing with our audience. Where can our viewers find you?
Yeah. So I think people should just take a beat. And if anything I said struck a chord with you and you were like, wait, monogamous to what? You should go to joliequiz.com, JOLIQUIZ.com. 10-question quiz, super fun. And it'll tell you whether you are ready to open up or whether you definitely aren't and need a step before that.
Perfect. Yeah. And the other thing I want to say too is if you are in a very niche space like Jolie is, consensual non-monogamy, getting visibility to audiences outside of like relationship shows and things like that are really, really important because when you work with, like, I'll say B2C, like a consumer audience, like you're not, your clients aren't like companies signing up with you, like they're individuals there for their relationship. They're everywhere, like whether you're coaching people in their relationship or their health, people that need help in their health are probably listening to shows about another aspect of their life. So thank you, Jolie, for coming here and always being visible here to our business owner audiences, because I know there's people watching that have thought about opening their relationship. Jolie is who you need to call so you don't screw it all up.
You got a lot to lose. Let's not do that.
JolieQuiz.com. Go check her out. Connect with her on all the socials. Again, thank you so much, Jolie, for being here and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for having me, Jess.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, next up, we have Tanya Kolesnik. Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Jessica. How are you?
I am doing amazing. It is pouring rain here, and it's like, I love it because I've got the sound of the rain. I'm here talking with some of my favorite people about some of my favorite topics. So if you're just joining us, I'm Jessica Rhodes, founder of Interview Connections. You're here watching Visibility Breakthrough, how podcast guesting can heal your past, grow your business, and be seen for the first time ever. And I'm joined now by Tanya Kolesnik, who I'm going to have her introduce herself in a moment. Tanya has been working with us at Interview Connections to get booked on podcasts. So if that's something you want to do, book a consult now with that link. And Tanya's also, we have a mastermind program as well that Tanya's a member of. And we've just been so overjoyed seeing her have some visibility breakthroughs. So Tanya, introduce yourself, share with everyone who you are, who you serve, what you do, and then, introduce yourself and then we'll go from there.
Okay. All right, great. So Tanya Kolesnik, I've been a psychotherapist and coach for 27 years now, and I've done various combinations of working for myself, working for other people, and most recently came back to working for myself this past January, knowing that I wanted to do podcasting as a way to get some exposure, started doing some Instagram, TikTok stuff as a way to get exposure. All of this is somewhat uncomfortable and new. Back in the day when I first started my practice 27 years ago, I did a lot of public speaking locally. But now that the world has opened up, it's just a whole new ballgame. So I knew that I wanted to do podcasting, and the thought of how to get on was daunting to me. And I came across Interview Connections and went to one of their, I guess back when you were doing the mastermind, like a full week, but I was already ready to sign on probably after the first day or so, because what really struck a chord for me is the growth process inside of myself that would happen as I did this work, and that nobody could do it for you. You can't study your way to it. You actually have to have these experiences. And it's similar to what I work on with my clients. So I said I've been a psychotherapist and coach, but mostly I love intimate group. And more recently, realizing that it's the combination of intimate group and individual that seems to work the best. I used to be a graphic designer prior to becoming a psychotherapist and coach, and that experience for me of being in group, learning about myself, combined with some processing individually, changed my life. And I have a little documentary about that on my website. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Yes. Yeah. Tanya just had a documentary produced about her story. It's amazing. Let's share your website right now so folks can see that. Where can they see the documentary?
If you go to Group with Tanya, and Tanya is spelled Tanya, it'll get you right there. And I have a free, if you're interested in learning more about group, there's a free discovery session as well. And so that link's right there as well. Discover Group.
Awesome. So I know you said you were you registered for one of our podcast guesting master classes. You were probably like ready to sign up with us after the first day. Why was working with Interview Connections to book you as a guest? Like, why was it important for you to have an agency that was getting you on the podcast versus like going out and doing it on your own?
Well, I think for me, there was a volume piece. What you guys provide, and I signed up early, so I got an extra few, was 52 in a year. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I'll do a podcast here and there. Like, I didn't realize that I could do so many. And so the idea of getting so many and not having to do all the heavy lifting, knowing that you guys already know what's out there and sort of different ways to get at some of the podcasts that would be a good connection for me. And it's been great because every podcast that I've done so far, and I think I've done about 9 so far. I'm doing my 10th tomorrow. I have about 4 more scheduled. So it's moving. Every time I do one, it's a really nice fit. It's lovely to have people interested in my story, to be able to talk about things that I know about, but being asked about it is kind of a great feeling. It's fun.
Yes. Okay. I want to really hone in on that. Why talk more about the experience of being seen for you, for your story, for what lights you up, for what you're passionate about on a regular basis, right? You're getting booked on a regular basis. You're being seen and heard for who you are on a regular basis. How is that helping you grow?
I think it's helping me to own my story, because the more I share the story, the more I decide about like, right, was that true to me? Is that how I want to represent myself? And so each podcast is an opportunity to keep fine tuning that and reiterate the things that really feel important and powerful, and maybe let go of some of the things that feel like, you know what, I don't know that that's really what I want to lead with anymore. And I think it's allowed me to celebrate myself a little bit more, which is not maybe my easiest thing to do, but to be able to do that feels amazing. And I feel like I have more pride in the work that I do, and I have more sort of ownership and more awareness of the gift of it than I used to have. And I've only, just started really. If we think of, I'm doing 52 and I've done about 10. Yeah.
I love that you said it allows you to celebrate yourself and have more pride in what you do. That is so amazing, because as entrepreneurs, we often forget to celebrate ourselves. We have maybe these moments. Some of them are once in a lifetime. Some of them are once every couple of years. Like, for us, we just won our Stevie Award. So we're like in a big celebratory phase, but like, that doesn't happen. Like, it's 9 years. And this is the first time we've been able to like accept an award publicly. But when you're interviewed on podcasts, you get those little bits of celebration and like attention. And it feels really good, and it raises your vibration. And I love that you highlighted that, because when you feel good, good things come to you.
Yeah, totally. I just did a storytelling workshop yesterday, which I'm sort of excited about, because I know I can apply that now to some of my podcasting and Instagram stories and everything that I'm doing. But one of the things that I loved about what this woman taught is like, you sound excited to tell the story. That was feedback that she gave to us in the group. And I never really thought about how important that is. Tell the stories you're excited to tell. And so that goes with what you were talking about that vibration and
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so important. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I'm doing this live stream, is that what really excites me is having my clients and the people that I love speak and get visibility for their brilliance. I love it so much. It raises my vibration. It makes me really excited to be here. And that's really how you grow your business, is you make sure you're in alignment. You're doing the things that light you up, that excite you. And the process of being interviewed on podcasts it's a shortcut to finding out what doesn't light you up, what lights you up. Like, I don't know about you, Tanya. I've certainly had experiences where I get interviewed on a topic and I'm like, nah, I gotta take that off the one sheet. Like I'm kind of bored about that. Let's change it up, right? Has that happened to you? Like, have you discovered topics or things that you're like, I'm gonna steer away from that? I know you're kind of early on, but
yeah, I have discovered, maybe in a slightly different way, but I think for me, I went in thinking, I love group, I'm going to sell group, and pretty early on realized nobody's necessarily looking for group. Some people are, I always am, but necessarily looking for group. You're really more interested in what is the group going to give you, what are the results. And so that's just helped me in terms of my own languaging and figuring out, well, what am I actually wanting people to understand about the work that I do? And so more and more, first of all, highlighting the combination of group and individual was not something I started with, but realizing, oh, that worked really well for me, and that does work really well for my clients. So I'm speaking about it in those terms a lot more. And also, it really is about living. I mean, this process, the reason why I love it, the reason why it lights me up, is it helps people live their truth. It helps people access things that they otherwise wouldn't be able to access. And so to be able to talk about that more clearly, it's definitely a work in progress, and it's evolving. And that the group that I do with you and Margy, the mastermind group, is amazing because it's really helping me kind of even further go deeper and get more and more clear about what that messaging is, and how to speak about it so it's clear to people and not so vague, because just living your truth alone is usually just not enough. But the more I can start to talk about that in clear ways, the better it's going to be in my process.
Yeah. If you're just joining us live, I'm Jessica Rhodes, the founder of Interview Connections, and we're talking with Tanya Kolesnik, who's one of our clients at Interview Connections, about the visibility breakthrough she's experienced through being a guest on podcasts, and how podcast guesting can heal your past, grow your business, and be seen for the first time ever. So, Tanya, you had a visibility breakthrough last week, fresh, hot off the press. So Tanya and Jolie both mentioned, so we are talking today, a lot about podcast guesting. We book people on podcasts. We have a different offer that is a mastermind program. And Tanya and Jolie are both in that mastermind. And Tanya was challenged to go live by Margy. Talk a little bit about that, Tanya.
That was actually a very funny experience, because at the very tail end of group, you guys had already been talking about going live, but I didn't know what you meant, because I thought you were maybe talking about your podcast. I just didn't know. I didn't think it applied to me. So like, what are you guys even talking about? And when they said, oh, on Instagram, and I have gone live with somebody else before, but I had never done it by myself. And so I agreed to make a commitment to do that. I didn't do it the first day when I was planning to do it, and that was my commitment. But I did it the next day and talked about the fact that I didn't even follow my original commitment, letting that go, all of that. And then Margy challenged me again to do a number of days in a row. So now I'm doing what I agreed to is 25 days in a row, because I'm going to be off on vacation after that. So I didn't want to do it on vacation, but up until then, it's been really interesting. And I just finished, I think, day 3 in a row, which is really day 4 in a row, because the first one wasn't part of that series. And learning about it, my nervousness definitely is there at the beginning of each one, but it's getting a little bit calmer. And And actually, I think I'm losing a few followers by doing it. And so there's a part of me that's like, oh no, it's not the right thing. But then I'm just reminded how important it is to be in alignment, and that this is in alignment for me to learn and grow this way. And it's going to be in alignment with the right community. And so I'm letting go of the numbers, and I'm just trusting that this feels like it's in alignment. So I'm continuing forward, and it's been an adventure so far. We'll see how it continues to play out. But what I love is having that kind of support around taking some of these scary steps, because it is scary. And and you and Margy were amazing at celebrating me, which helped me feel really good having done it, having accomplished it. And so, yeah, I feel like things are moving more quickly as more and more is sort of continuing to play out.
Yes. And well, congratulations, especially for going live, because just like Jolie was saying, you really build that muscle and that endurance when you're on, the smaller podcasts, or when you go live, like depending on your Instagram following, you might go live with 2 people watching, maybe nobody watches, right? But you build that endurance and you build that confidence. And I love that you're going live for 25 days in a row, because after you complete that 25 days, it's going to be like nothing. And you're just your confidence is going to expand and grow. That goes right over into your podcast interview performance. So I just encourage everyone watching. And Marty did the same thing for me. I told her, I was like, visibility breakthrough. She's like, go live, talk about it. And I'm like, okay, so I went live multiple times last week too. And it's just like I was saying, I shared at the beginning of this live stream, what Margy said, and I'm going to quote her again, because it truly is the theme of this live stream. She said, quote, when you're growing your business, you have these seeds of ideas that are really great, but until you're visible and you speak them externally to your audience, those seeds will not grow. Those seeds will not grow until you plant them in the mind of your audience. You are growing and co-creating your business with your audience. Just like a flame without oxygen goes out right away, your message will die if it's not shared with your audience. And I commend you for going live. I commend you for getting on podcasts, because right, every entrepreneur watching here has ideas. They have a great service. They have value to share. But until you share it externally, until you get public visibility for it through these podcast interviews, it's not going to grow you. You're not going to grow your business. So
yeah. And I would say for me too, the languaging, the messaging has been all 27 years a struggle for me. And so going through this process, I'm not fine-tuned where I want to be yet, but I see it evolving, and I trust that I'm getting to this place. And I think it's that too, having the exposure, but also being able to speak in a way that resonates quickly. People don't have a large attention span. And so the quicker you can sort of get your wording out there, get your messaging out there, the better. And I believe it's coming. So
yes, it is, because you can see your energy like shifting, right? That it is all about like getting into alignment, and you can't just get into alignment in the back end of your business when nobody's watching you. You kind of have to put yourself out of your comfort zone. And so, Tanya, where can our viewers here connect with you?
So if you go to Group with Tanya, Tanya, you can get to my website, the documentaries there, and the free discovery sessions are there, where I'd be happy to talk to anybody that's considering how could group be helpful for them in particular, and I can talk about that. And check out my podcasts. Check out the Instagram if you want to see some of my videos and some of my lives. I'm posting them all. And that is Tanya the Therapist, all one word.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tanya. You guys be like Tanya. Have your visibility breakthrough, get visible, book a consultation now. Wait, opposite there. Yeah. Interviewconnections.com/contact. Just fill out some brief information about your business and schedule a consult to talk about how you can follow in Tanya's footsteps. Success leaves clues. If you want to really expand and have these breakthroughs and get clarity on your message and grow your business, getting interviewed on podcasts and getting the coaching and support from us at Interview Connections is a surefire way to make that happen. So we have our next speaker in the wings. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Thank you, everybody. Good luck.
All right. Next up, we have Vina Sterling. Vina, hello.
Hi, how are you? So good to see you.
I'm so excited to have you here. As I've shared, this visibility breakthrough live stream came to me, and there were several people that popped into mind as like, I want them to speak. I want them to share their visibility breakthrough. And you were one of those clients that we have at Interview Connection. So I'm like, I really hope she'll come on and share her visibility breakthroughs. I'm so glad that you said yes.
I'm so glad I did as well. Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Yeah. So to start, introduce yourself, Vina Sterling. Tell us about yourself, your business, and who you help.
Yes. Hi, I'm Vina Sterling, and I work with women entrepreneurs to build virtual teams and really helping them get out of their own way, which it's so funny. I know we'll talk about that more, but understanding how to work better with their teams, getting out of their way, what are their triggers, how to align their business with their lifestyle, the lifestyle that they love to have. A lot of the clients that come to me are in burnout, stressed out. The dynamics on their teams aren't working. So I work with them to align their business with their personal life, and then work with them and their teams to have the team get on the same on the same page with the same mission, and really allowing the women to create more wealth, legacy, and freedom. And so, excited to be doing that and to be working with you all.
Yes. So I wanted to bring Vina on because she's had so many visibility breakthroughs, and I wanted to have her share her story because it is the story, so many people I know will be able to relate to your journey in getting to this place of gaining visibility on a consistent basis on podcasts as a guest expert. So you, like Tanya said, were in, watched one of our master classes. We had some calls. You signed up, you joined our program, and went into that intake process.
The long intake process.
Normally the intake process, we say like max a month. We're actually working to make that a much shorter intake process because we want to get you visible. Like, we don't want to waste time. We want to get you out on podcasts. And the intake process was a little long. And I'm like, what's going on, Vina? So I want you to share, because breakthroughs happen after breakdown. So what was your visibility breakdown? And then how did you get to that breakthrough?
Yes, it was a whole lot of time. Okay. I signed up late last year. And for me, visibility has always been the thing I resisted. And it's so amazing. I've been watching and I hear you talking about the coaching that you provide. And for me, that has been the factor that's gotten me comfortable with getting visible. I actually work with clients to help them find out what's their direct path to wealth by what they should be focusing on in their business. And for me, it's all about visibility. And so I resisted that. And a lot of it has to do with upbringing. I know you all talk about healing. I grew up in the Bronx, rough area, and then found myself in a legal career. Like, I learned, okay, you got to work hard. So I worked really, really hard to get out of the Bronx, practice big law. And I walked in with this this mindset of like, keep your personal life private, right? And I say sometimes to my mom, I'm like, what was the business that we were never supposed to share? The message was, don't share your business. I'm like, were we selling drugs, or was there like a gambling ring or something that I didn't know about? And it was just it was the absolute opposite of bringing your authentic self to work, which is now, what is, so key, and we've recognized is important. So I hid from visibility there. And in my legal career, I definitely had that mask. I wasn't comfortable, fully being myself. And we're rewarded for being like everyone else. You put on the black suit, you put on the navy suit, you put on your pearl earrings, and and you make it work, right? So I resisted that. I think was a big part of it. And I knew my direct path to wealth was being visible, being out in the front instead of doing all the stuff I was doing instead, which is tinkering the website, trying to get good at social media, all the hiding tasks. And so I was ready to have a breakthrough when I saw, when I attended the master class. And another thing that was a factor was, the internal voices that we hear, the things that we think others are judging us. But what I've come to discover is just our inner judge, where we're judging. And so there was the voice of, who do you think you are? Like, who do you think you are to declare yourself an expert and get on podcasts? And so there's a lot of that, to overcome. So I was excited about what you were sharing about visibility. And I felt like, okay, this will give me the kick in the butt. It's like, signing up with a trainer to get to the gym.
Right.
It was like, okay. And then another thing was it was aligned with the work that I do, because one of the things that differentiated you was you spotlighted your team. You had your team come on. And what I've learned is that for us to be really effective, it takes a team and it takes teamwork. And that's why I focus my work on that, because I practiced law, and then I had a corporate career as an HR exec, leading a team, leading culture transformation in a big organization. And then when I started focusing all of my attention on my women entrepreneurs, there were so many of us that were like solopreneurs. And I'm like, okay, that actually doesn't work. At least if you want to create, like, be self-employed, that's one thing, but you're always going to hit a cap. And I had left these organizations that have the marketing department and they have this department. So I was building team in my life. And I saw this as a way to, it's like having a publicity agency. I said, wow, not only is it me adding teams and teamwork into what I'm doing, but I love that you spotlight your team. And I was on earlier, I saw you talking about the Pride picnic, and, your team, I've worked with Britt and Amelia. They were like, okay, hi, Vina. We're still waiting on her. And I really appreciate that support, because, it could have easily have gone the way of, well, I've already paid. So now, and I'm sure we've all been in that situation where you paid and it's on you. It is on you, right? It was on me to make this happen. But it could have been easy for you all to just sit and wait. But no, I just kept getting a ping. And they're like, this is only going to the podcast host.
Yes, so let me jump in, Vina. I want to share this story. So, first of all, I love what you said about visibility. And this is why, I just love doing panels like this, because every time one of our clients speak, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about it like that. So many of us grow up in families where it's like, I don't know if it's generational or if it's just like entrepreneurs are just groomed to be like talking about themselves, but most people aren't. But yeah, that maybe that childhood grooming of like, you don't talk about your family, that's private. I can totally relate to that, because I remember I started this podcast with my husband. It didn't go very far. I don't even think it's online anymore, but I really wanted to talk very openly about family stuff. And I know not everyone in my family was super chill with that idea. And it's like, I was just so used to listening to podcasts where people share everything, because I listened to public figures, and I just had never made the connection how as entrepreneurs, that can be a factor in what holds us back. And I know as well, for me, the more I grow as an entrepreneur and learn what to and how to heal my past, and how things from my childhood that involve family members and stuff like that are things I want to heal to then grow. It's like, ooh, I want to share that, but how much do I share? And then, you know what I mean? So that that all comes into play. And that's why we have client coaches, because we're not saying, oh, you just have to share everything, but we also don't want you to just be totally closed off to sharing anything, because it's your story that ultimately you're sharing. So that's kind of the context there. But then okay. So as we've shared in this live stream, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Vina Sterling, who's one of our clients at Interview Connections, and we book her on podcasts. And our intake process with a new client is max, we want it to be a month. We're actually working to shorten that. So it's we come in, we get to know you, we make your one sheet, and then we want to start pitching you. Vina had a slightly longer discovery process. A lot longer. And I remember, because she and I then had a breakthrough call, helped her have a visibility breakthrough. And when we got on, she, shared with me, I don't like the headshot that's on my one sheet. And I'm like, why? You look amazing. Like you look like you. And so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that gets us up to speed. It was like, you weren't ready to, you didn't want people to see that one sheet because you didn't like that photo of yourself, which is an incredibly relatable thing. Like this video, if you've ever not liked a photo of yourself that someone else was like, it's fine.
I know. And it's so hard sometimes, even like when I do have interviews, like listening to myself on video, it was just a major block. And I love the kick in the pants you gave me. You're like, okay, it's perfect. It's got my thumbs up. If you want a new picture, go outside in the backyard, put it on portrait, and take the picture, or else we'd like to send this out tomorrow. It was like, oh my God. And you gave me a deadline. So
I did.
Like the coach being coach, and I went out, I took a picture. I love it now. And as soon as I did that, I think I was booked for a podcast in like 2 days. And I want to, beat myself up that I took so long, but I'm really glad that I said yes, even when I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like I had, my stuff together, or my website was what I wanted it to be, or my social media presence. And this has really pulled me forward, which is powerful. And all of the amazing people that I've met and that I've partner with, your client base. I mean, I just remember like my first client call. I'm like, okay, yes. These are like all heavy hitters, they've said yes to that next level in their business, no matter where they are. And it's been so great getting to know them and, even looking at working with each other.
Yes. Yeah. You just hosted an amazing summit, which featured a lot of our clients that you met through the networking calls. And yeah, it was and I'm really so grateful that you are willing to come on and share the story about the one sheet, because it's not like, that's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we wanted to really spotlight, because again, I told you, I was like, this is going to be so relatable. So many people, we had a question earlier in the live stream, like, what if my website's not ready or it's not on brand? And of course, we would talk one-on-one on a consult call, which I would encourage everyone to book one if you're interested in working with us, because sometimes it's like, okay, you're actually not ready. And a lot of times, and Margy actually just did a video. You can go to her Instagram, Hey Margy, to see that video about resistance. And there's times, as she talks about, when you're in resistance to something, maybe it's truly not in alignment for you, right? And that's telling you something. But she also talks about how resistance can teach you something about yourself. And so for you, visibility is in alignment. You are resisting it for another reason. And that is where the breakthrough is available to you.
Perfectionism. I've been hearing you all talk about it. It was like, I don't like the bow in my hair. They're like, look, okay, we got to get you started. I love, just the way that you do that. But a lot of times, whatever we're up to, it's usually we're our biggest enemy. We're the thing that's in the way. This was totally in alignment. And I said yes, and it pulled me forward. And then after the kick in the pants, I put the one sheet out and got booked. And then that inspired me to make some changes online. So it's actually getting myself out of the way. And so if anyone is, feeling like they're not ready, I definitely would recommend that you just go for it. Say yes to the future you're living into.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so true, right? We have to make decisions today for who we're being. If
Yeah.
you want to grow a successful multi-six-figure business, well, what are the decisions that a successful six-figure business owner makes? If you want to grow to seven figures, what are the decisions that a seven-figure business owner makes? Don't make decisions based off of where you've been. You need to make decisions based off where you're going, and you will get all of the coaching and the mentorship and the support, the trainings. Our next speaker, Adriana Monique Alvarez, she did a great training, which we'll talk a little bit about for our clients, about developing referral partnerships. So all of the support you need to grow personally, to have breakthroughs and what's holding you back, what's scaring you, to really growing your business, like the tangible things you can be doing to use podcast testing to grow your business, like all of that is available to you in our program at Interview Connection. So book your consult now at interviewconnections.com/contact. Vina, where can our viewers here connect with you if they related to what you said? They feel like that you could help them. Where can they find you?
Sure. I'm at VenaSterling.com. So that's VENA Sterling, STERLING.com. And if anyone is struggling with their teams, it could be a business partner. A team is two or more people. So a business partner, their team, or just experiencing burnout, overwhelm, and want to really get their business going in the right direction, then I'd love to schedule a call.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We will get all the links in the chat here. I see that request from Kim. We'll definitely go back, make sure all the links get in the chat. Thank you so much, Vina.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. All right. Next up, we have Adriana Monique Alvarez. Hi.
Hi, Jessica. How are you?
I am doing so well. I am just in my element here, featuring all of you amazing women entrepreneurs who are getting on podcasts. So you are absolutely incredible. I just kind of teased you a little bit in the last video, in the last interview, but I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our viewers and just share a little bit about who you help and what you do.
Excellent. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm Adriana Monique Alvarez, the CEO of Alma Publishing. And what we do is we make writing your book, telling your story, we make it easy, we streamline it, and we partner with a lot of people. So we love collaboration books that are led by podcast hosts, established professionals, coaches, and consultants that can create another stream of revenue, either by starting their own publishing house or partnering with us on a book. So yeah, that's the gist of it. And I'm, since telling stories is so important to me, it was such an easy fit to work with you.
Yes. Yeah. And I remember, in 9 years, I've done a lot of consultation calls and met a lot of people, but I remember so vividly meeting with you. I remember listening to one of your podcast interviews before we had our initial consult, and you shared about how much you value community, how you provide the networking opportunities for your clients. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, so do we. Like, I cannot wait to work with her. And it's just been such a good fit. You've done one area that you've really led in, you've been such a leader and such an inspiration for our clients, is in really maximizing the collaboration opportunities. Obviously, that's a core part of your business, helping people with collaborative books. And I had you come in and do a training for our clients about maximizing collaboration opportunities. So can you talk a little bit about how you've used podcast guesting to develop collaborative relationships to grow your business?
Absolutely. And I'm just going to say from the get-go, if somebody has in mind just getting on a podcast, doing an interview, and then posting a graphic afterwards and think like that's the full spectrum of this experience, that is just the beginning. Like I always say, publishing a book, that's the beginning, not the end. And so one of the things that I've done is after a podcast interview, if I hit it off with that person, I feel like there's potential, I'll continue the relationship. So I'll figure out, okay, how can we follow each other on social media? If they have a group, I join it. And I begin to have what I call these Zoom collaboration calls. So we might get together for 20 minutes and I want to hear what they want most. Do they want introductions? And the thing I'm really looking for is if podcasters are making any money from their podcast. Because many people are passionate about sharing stories, but they haven't necessarily connected the dots in creating a stream of revenue. Or what I learned is they were really great in the interview, and 3 months later, I still have no idea what their services are. And so that's like a big clue for me that this is someone that I could collaborate with, someone that I could get their wheels turning. And so what I've learned is if I have these quick conversations and I provide something for them, it builds the relationship. I think that it's so easy, especially online, to go approach people and ask them for something. Can you send me a referral? Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And podcast hosts are already giving us the opportunity to share our story on their platform, to their audience, to their people. And so I think it's really important to find a way to give back to them, to create that reciprocation and that exchange. And so that's become my favorite thing. We're currently doing like 10 partnership books with mainly podcast hosts who go, you know what, I can go look at the 300, 400, 500 interviews I've done and say, who wants to take their story from the podcast into a book? Who wants to go the next step? And so we have created additional revenue, about $30,000 of additional revenue per book for each podcaster that we partner with.
That's incredible. Oh my goodness. You are such a genius when it comes to collaborations. Oh my gosh. So you're building relationships. You're really focusing on, like, you're asking them questions about themselves, their podcast, their business. So that way you're not just like, this is what I do. Do you want it? Like, you're able to genuinely tell people what you do in your business and they can see how it's going to help them grow. That's just so brilliant.
Well, thank you, first of all. And then the other thing I would say too is it's important not to make people plug into your box, into your program. If I wouldn't have listened to them and asked them questions, I would have never even created partnership books. Partnership books were born through conversations with podcasters, through these collaboration calls. Mm-hmm. So sometimes our most profitable and fulfilling offers don't come in a void when I'm brainstorming at my desk and I'm in this vacuum. It's when I'm in conversation with you and I go, well, what would support you? Well, what could you bring? What are your superpowers? Well, I could do this. You know, we could do this together. And it's so much more fun when we do it like that.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. See, I said earlier, I always learn something new when I host these panels. Like, my clients always share something and I'm like, oh my gosh. And that's something, you know, Jolie said something similar, right? Offers actually get created out of these conversations. And what holds a lot of entrepreneurs back from visibility, from, you know, a big objection we get from people that like aren't ready to work with us. Oh, my offer's not ready yet. I'm like, the offer won't be figured out until you're in conversation with your target audience and you create something that they need. So that is like, oh my gosh, if I could echo that from the rooftop, I would definitely do that. That's so smart.
It's true. I think that we have this idea that, you know, I shouldn't work with you. I shouldn't get on podcasts. I shouldn't tell my story until all my ducks are in a row. And actually, if you want your ducks to be in the most beautiful row that's unique to you, start talking, start moving forward, and then see how it forms. Because I'm going to tell you, people can spend years at their desk trying to figure it out. And I will tell you, if you go do 4 podcast interviews a month for 4 months, you will become so crystal clear on who you are, what your best stories are, and the offers that actually make sense, that people want, that are clamoring, they're coming to you. And that's what's happened since I started working with you. A few things. After telling your story so many times, you really figure out the ones that you're sick of telling and the ones you love telling.
Yes.
And so for me, it was huge growth because I said, you know what? I'm sick of talking about that. And just to be totally honest, I was sick of just talking about business. I was so tired of people just seeing me as a businesswoman. Yeah. It's actually a tiny fraction of who I am. I wanted people to know I'm a wife, I'm a mother, we're homesteading, we love to go out in nature, we go up in the mountains, and I like connecting and people actually seeing who I am as a person and then going, oh yeah, and an extension, like another thing I do, right, in addition to planting flowers and making delicious meals and having chocolate souffle for breakfast, is I can help you tell your story. And I did not like slicing myself up and now I'm going to wear the business hat because I'm on a podcast. No, it's like this full integration. And then the other thing that I found is that once I was talking so much and sharing so many stories and interacting with so many people on a regular basis, I had to get very real about what aspects of my business I didn't want to do anymore.
Ooh.
And this is really good for business owners because sometimes you just keep doing stuff because you've always done it.
Oh my God. Amen.
Right? I know you were going through this. And actually what happened is I decided about 6 months ago, I wanted to replace myself in my business. And I realized I didn't need to have my hands in everything. I didn't need to be that CEO that had given myself a lot of jobs so that I felt needed and I looked important. And I just pulled out of so many things and got people who were way better at those tasks and those positions than I ever will be. And so now I'm exploring like hobbies and, taking up photography and doing other things, and I think as we grow, we have to look at ourselves. We have to look at what's working and what's not, what feels good, what feels exciting, or what's just simply routine.
Oh my gosh. Again, amen to what you just said. That's been like the theme for us at Interview Connections. Margy's been writing a lot about, and we've been talking on our podcast about implementing Scrum and agility. And like, we still, we're over 6 months into using Scrum and Agile and like talking about it, because that's the thing. You have to talk about it. You can't just do something behind the scenes and it all changes, but there's so much power that comes in talking about it and always looking at it's like every day we discover something that we've been doing it because we've always been doing it. And then you go, why are we doing that? Like, is that, honestly, this live stream right here, I have been, the conversion events that we've used, the opportunities where we talk about the service have always been like our masterclass. And it was like, we just did it because we always did it. We just did it because we always did it. And then I was like, I want to go live with my clients and I want to talk about visibility breakthroughs. Like, I'm not going to worry about a method or a model or whatever. I'm just going to do what feels good to me. And I'm having like the most fun ever. So I just love that you highlighted that.
It's true. And something else around that is we have to stay true to who we are. It's very easy to lose ourselves in this world of the internet. And one of the biggest breakthroughs that happened as a result of me being on so many podcasts and telling my story so many times and refining my offers and collaborating is I had to come face to face. Like I could feel it coming, when you can feel that thing on your heels.
Yeah.
And I had to come face to face with this idea of like, you have to look a certain way to be successful, and you have to sound a certain way, and you have to have a certain type of offer priced a certain way. And these are the marketing methods that all the important people use. And I just was like, you know what? None of that's me. And if I need to be something other than who I am, and I need to do things that absolutely feel horrible to me, I don't want to do it. And what I found is when I just allowed myself to be me, the most incredible people showed up, right? Everyone gets the memo when we make that huge internal shift.
Yes.
Yeah. And they would say things like, I'm choosing you because you're this way. And that way is just me being me not trying to be successful and strategic and slick and shiny and all of that,
Yes. And I know you and I have private message about this too. I've like had the same experience of, it's been a couple of years that I haven't been the CEO of Interview Connections, but I just really started talking about it a lot more publicly. And the more I do, the safer it feels, because when you make a shift in your business, when it could be you stop telling this story and you start telling this one, or you change this offer, it feels in alignment, but then your nervous system is also like, this is different, or this is a little bit scary. And, I think I might have told you this, but if I didn't, I'm telling you right now. For me, when I started talking more about, like before when I wasn't really talking as much about how I wasn't the CEO and stuff like that, I was such like a people pleaser and wanted to get like public approval and validation. So I was like doing the things that I thought I was supposed to be doing. And then when I just like healed that wound and left that, I actually ended up getting like more visibility and like approval and validation, not from a place of like needing it, but like people genuinely like yourself being like, I really love what you shared. And I was like, there were like a couple messages like in one day after I made that shift. And I was like, holy crap. Like when you just get into alignment and you share yourself authentically, not because you think it's what people want, but just because who you are, you actually get what you were trying to get before.
100% of the time. And I will tell you, it's like you said, you know when you've made this shift because everything inside of you will tell you you're about to lose everything. You're about to lose everything you've worked for. Like there goes the farm, right? It's all over. And then you find the courage, right, to honor yourself and to stay true to who you are. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, everything that you actually wanted shows up, and then you realize, oh, there it is, right? And that's what I'm really seeing. It's you know, all of that trying to be a certain thing. Yeah. You know, thank God it's all dropping, and people can feel it when you just go, you know what? I recently sent an email to my highest paid group of clients, and I said, we're meeting on Tuesday, and I'm not going to do things like I used to do. I'm not going to go into default, and I have no idea what this is going to look like going forward. And if you're fine with that, then let's see what happens, you know, and if you're fine not showing up with your business hat on all the time and you can just show up as you, and let's have some conversations about how we're going to navigate this whole coming together. And that's what we're all hungry for.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. There's this theme today and, you know, through this live stream and just in general of like connection, being seen, being heard, feeling seen, feeling heard, really being in alignment, and just like peeling back the onion layers of yourself to get to the core of who you are. And you can't do that if you're not in conversation and you're not in connection. And podcast guesting, another plug for getting on podcasts, is because you're like, you can hear them, you're like, okay, cool. No, I need to be connected. I know I need to be seen, be heard. And podcast guesting is actually like the medium for you to make that happen. So I want to encourage everyone to book a consultation call with our team, because we would love to help you do that and provide you the support. Like I said, Adriana was so kind and came on and did a training for our clients that's in our membership site about how to maximize collaboration opportunities. Adriana, how can our viewers here connect with you if they want to learn more about how to work with AMA Publishing and how you can support them? Where can they find you online?
Well, they can find me under my full name, it's a long one, AdrianaMoniqueAlvarez.com. And I'm on social media. I would love for people to reach out. And you know, this is what it is. If you get that being in connection with people and having conversation, if you had a conversation every day with someone about what you wanted to do in the world, I can guarantee you it would happen sooner than you could even imagine. And when you're working with Jessica and her team, you are doing interviews all the time, and those people are talking to people every day. And I can guarantee you they know the people that you want to know. Make it easy. If you're cool stepping into this, then step into it and realize talking to people is where the magic is.
Mic drop. So powerful. Connect with Adriana. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right. So we have had so many amazing speakers, and we're actually not even done yet. We have another amazing speaker coming on at 1:30 to share her visibility breakthroughs. And for those of you who have been with us, I want you to just leave a comment in the chat and introduce yourself. We've had some folks commenting and asking questions and have been so engaged with our speakers here. I haven't talked directly to you watching here, but here we are. Leave me a comment in the chat. Tell me what your biggest takeaway and breakthrough has been so far today, and just introduce yourself so I can come back after we're live here and interact with you. And I want to go through just the full program. Oh, we've got Britt here. I'm going to bring Britt on live. That's the key to me not covering up my beautiful banner here.
Hi.
It's telepathy. I'm like, I can't message my team, but hopefully one of them will see that I need.
I'm here. I just got off actually a nice call with a client. So,
oh my God, amazing.
Yeah.
Britt and I together are going to walk you through what it looks like to work with Interview Connections. So we work with clients through two different ways, right? We are a done for you agency service where we're booking you on the podcast and you're getting the coaching and the mentorship to help you have the visibility breakthroughs. Breakthroughs come when you have that coaching and that mentorship and support to aid them, because sometimes a breakthrough is like right in front of you and you just need that coach to echo it back to you. As Vina said, she's like, I help my clients get out of their own way and I was in my own way. So do you want to, now that Vina has come on and shared, do you want to share a little bit more about working with Vina and helping breakthrough?
Absolutely. So, Vina, I was super impressed by Vina since like the moment that she signed on. I think back in those days, and I say those days because even though it was only 6 months ago, so much has changed in our business, and we do things in ways that are just incredible now. We've had our own breakthroughs in those 6 months as far as Interview Connections is concerned. I mean, like Vina and I had what we used to refer to as a welcome call, like even before her discovery call. So the thing is like I was, chatting with Vina. At that time, I kind of onboarded every single client, whereas now, I'm kind of more focused on just the ones on my team. And, we talked and she was super excited to get started. And, I kind of just like in my head, I was just always kind of keeping tabs on her because I saw her on the list. I saw that she hadn't yet filled out her intake form. So just every week or so, I'd be like, hey, Vina, like no rush. But just so you know, like you just need to get it in. Like we can fix everything later. Like I don't want to put too much pressure on you, but like it really is not a big deal. Like just
just for the sake of like explaining, because that's a common question we get is like, what happens after I sign up? So after you sign up and join us at Interview Connections, you immediately get a welcome text and a welcome email, and you just have to fill out a very brief intake form. You provide us with like basic contact information, website, social media, interview topics, interview questions, bio. Like it's just kind of the bare bones of what we need to be able to make a really thoughtful match, because as Britt said, we have 3 agile teams and 3 different client coaches. So we work to match our clients up with like the best team for them. So we just need that basic information. So until you fill out that form, like we can't, it's a 2-way street. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I guess we could kind of just go into it blind, but that wouldn't really be the best for our clients.
Well, things blind typically don't, you bump into a lot of rules.
You want to do some preparing, like knowing that a client is going to be assigned to your team. You do your own research and you look into, their website, if they have blog posts, if they've been on podcasts before, so it really is just kind of setting us up for success in that way. And you can sign up and be ready to go, but until you get that intake form in, we're not going to schedule a discovery call. We need that kind of first step, like Jess said, to like really get to know you a little bit better. And it's really not that much on the intake form, but
we shorten the intake form a lot. We make it as easy as possible.
Exactly. And the thing is, though, we all got together at Jess's house recently, and we sort of mapped the client experience, and we really like put ourselves into our client's shoes and realized, okay, actually maybe this is a little bit scary, that concept of becoming visible and like getting your messaging right, that it feels like quite a bit of an undertaking when you really have never sat down and really thought about it before. So Vina, like she mentioned in her interview with you today, she really was just getting in her own way. But with a little bit of prodding, she was finally ready. She put her intake form in and she sent me an email and she was like, you'll be proud of me. I finally did it. And I was like, I am proud of you. Like, way to go.
Britt, Vina said this too, but there are there's probably a lot of businesses out there where you sign up, you pay, and if you don't take that step to like get your intake form in or do whatever, the business will just ignore you, like thanks for the donation. Like we don't have to serve you. We're not like that. Like we are so committed to you having a visibility breakthrough. We're so committed to you achieving your goals. So like she said, she had already like been making her monthly payments. So she was like, oh, are they just going to like take my money and just not do anything? We were like, we want to see you get out there. Like we don't, we're committed to your visibility breakthrough, not just for getting a sale. Like it's about so much more than that.
100%. And like, I don't want to use like the term red flag, but like a client who isn't putting their intake form in, like that sets off an alarm in me. Like they need my support, you know, they need my help. So I'm gonna do everything I can to kind of engage with them and, you know, like I said before, meet them where they're at and like see how I can help, you know, just at least get the first step, you know, like take that first step, and from there, like I've got you, like I'll carry you the rest of the way, you know. So it was nice, and like to see that Vina has been so successful, and, you know, to continue to give her guidance about her one sheet, and like, you know, really being firm, like, no, this is it. Like Jess said, I'll never forget that email. You know, Jess was like, if whatever you have at 11:30 today, that's what's going on the one sheet, and that's
that deadline. Because sometimes clients need that. Sometimes we need that. We need that deadline of being told you need to do it by this time and this date. And so she, you know, Vina got her intake form in, made the one sheet. There was a little bit of a hiccup on the photo, which we talked about. And then off to the races, we're pitching, we're booking. And so that through the lens of that story, you get what the experience is like in the discovery process, the intake with us, and then we're pitching and booking you on shows. We have two different packages. The payment, so you want to book a consult, so we can talk about like which level is right for you. The payment plan is $2,500 a month. We have significant discounts for our clients who come in and pay in full. So just book a consult to talk through with me or a member of our sales team, like what level is right for you. And then we're getting you booked on podcasts, guaranteed. You're having monthly coaching calls with either Britt or Gabby or John to like immediately every month kind of reporting back how the interviews are going. So if there need to be tweaks, like Adriana talked about, she discovered there were certain stories. She's like, I'm so sick of talking about that. Like, so we're actively, can you talk about, Britt, the process of updating one sheets and changing the types of shows that we're pitching people to?
Yeah, literally the call that I was just on, we talked exactly about that. Our client Nina, she realized that she was getting, you know, clients from shows that she was on. You know, her programs are smaller in ticket, but, you know, they're really, really deep, like vulnerable work that she does with her clients. You know, she helps women kind of overcome, you know, body issues and feeling more comfortable in their own body, and helping with intimacy. And she found that when she focused more on that intimacy aspect, where, you know, women couldn't feel like they could be intimate because they were unhappy with the way that they look or the way they feel in their body. She already had a couple of people kind of contact her to talk about that. She's having conversations with hosts that are going to lead to more opportunities. And so we kind of had that conversation today where let's focus, like, let's really lean in on that. We'll start to talk to shows with audiences of women who, you know, are over 50, who really are kind of lacking that intimacy from their life. And it was just kind of wonderful, like, because it's exactly what we were just talking about on the live earlier today. And then I immediately just had a call and kind of like, you know, with Amelia, who's another member of my team, we were both there, you know, we're both there to support Nina. And, you know, we all just got really excited about what the future looks like. So
yeah, I love that. And I threw on this term, you know, agile. We're an agile company. So when you work with Interview Connections, you don't just have a booking agent. You have a whole team, and it's an agile team. So you can read at margy.com. You can go and read some of Margy's blog posts and articles about Scrum and Agile, and like how Interview Connections is an agile company and what that all means. But, you know, just for the sake of this live stream, each team at Interview Connections is, you know, has a group of people on it, and the roles are flexible, right? Like Britt's a client coach, but she may also do some research one day. She may do some pitching one day. Like the teams kind of get to decide that. And that is for the best of the client experience. So you don't just have like one person who's just in their silo doing everything for your account. You have a whole team. So you get like fresh perspectives and ideas. You know, Michael, who's the, you know, head researcher on your team, has like so many brilliant ideas. Like he can look at a client and their business and their goals and be like, well, what about this type of show? What about this type of show? Whereas Britt can be more focused on, you know, how the podcast casting strategy is growing their business and like supporting them when it feels like scary to get visible and scary to move forward. So you really do, like, if you are a solopreneur, if you're a coach with like a small team, you really do have like an entire podcast team now working for you. Like you really do. Like you've got Britt, you've got like, there are calls where clients I know will have Britt, Michael, and Amelia all on Zoom with them.
Yeah.
Like you get 3 of their brains. It's
And the amazing thing is doing it, working in that way, like, Nina felt so supported by Amelia, who, I call her kind of like mini client care, because she's so good at talking to clients and kind of coaching them through. And she's got a great brain for, kind of taking the essence of a client and making it like digestible for hosts. So Nina reached out to Amelia, and like, as a client coach, like that honestly, like makes me happy, because I no longer am just like the only person that our clients feel comfortable reaching out to and kind of like having those discussions with. And, Amelia and I were both able to take the call together, but if I wasn't able to, for whatever reason, Amelia totally could have, so it's an amazing experience for sure.
Yeah, we really do have an incredible team. And so in addition to, all of the coaching and support that you're getting from the team, the guaranteed bookings on podcasts, which you're actively like talking and sharing and reflecting and getting on targeted shows, we also have the client network, which, we absolutely love. The client networking calls were actually born out of, when the pandemic hit. Margy was like, we really need a way for clients to have that connection, because now everyone's shut down, everyone's in their homes. And of course, things are opening up. There's so many opportunities for connection. Like we have Sammy going down to the She Podcast meetup in New York City on Wednesday. Like there are in-person ways to connect. We're super excited to be doing a lot more meetups and conferences on our schedule, but that daily connection, not necessarily daily, but like every single week, going on a podcast, being connected is so important. And so we continue to host networking calls. They used to be weekly, but they're monthly now, because like people are actually able to leave their houses now. So, and I host those too, because I've been online for 2.5 hours with no break, and I'm like, I'm not tired. So I love.
You're amazing, Jess.
I love this. And so I love hosting the networking calls. Britt and John and Gabby are always there too. Mm-hmm. And they're really an opportunity for clients to meet each other and to get resources and connections. So you come, you introduce yourself. And if you're like, okay, I'm rebranding my website. Like we had a client who's like, I'm rebranding and I don't know where to start. And we have people like, you should talk to this person. Our client Susan Meyer does this. How about this person? And so she walks away from that call with like the answers that she needs to grow her business. So it's like, you come to us, you invest in podcast guesting, but then you get so much more than that to help you grow your business.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of perspective, I think, to be gained from people who are in your shoes and doing it, right? Like, I have a lot of insight, I have a lot of knowledge and a lot of strategy that I can share with you. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not a business owner, kind of stepping into that spotlight. And so to have that built-in support system, I think is so special.
Yeah. And because you and our other client coaches and many team members are meeting with clients, we facilitate a lot of networking connections. Like I know you do. I do personally. Like I talked to one of our new clients who has a course, a program for people going through divorce. I was like, oh, you should meet our client, Karen McMahon, Journey Beyond Divorce. You guys offer totally different services, but you have the same target audience. There could be a great collaboration there. And so I made an introduction for them. And so because, our team knows all of our clients so well, and our clients are all coming for visibility, they're coming here to build their network. We aren't just like, oh, go on podcast and do it yourself. Like we guide you there, but we're also introducing you to other clients in the network to facilitate those like collaborative opportunities.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's also really fun. It's like matchmaking,
Totally. I know, it's so fun. It really is matchmaking. People over the years have said like, oh, you guys are like Match.com for podcasts. We really are in it for the live connection too. It's a very high end. Like this isn't like a dating app. Like this is a high end matchmaking business. We are connecting you with people that are truly going to change your life and like really transform your business. Let's see, any questions in the chat? I believe we have one more speaker coming on, and I was just checking, but I want to just encourage everyone to go. I cannot align my pointing. Like, go back there, go here. Interviewconnections.com visibility.com/contact. Fill out a brief form. I swear it's even shorter than the intake form. Fill out a brief form. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, it's serious, like name, business website, kind of tell us a little bit about where you're at in your business. And you'll be immediately redirected to a scheduling link where you can book a consultation call with me or a member of our team. We would love to support you. All right, we have our next speaker in the wing. So I'm going to let you go, Britt. Thank you.
Guys, have a good one.
All right, next up, we have Teresa Lear-Levine. Hi, Teresa.
Hey, Jessica. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here. We are talking all about visibility breakthroughs today, sharing about how podcast guesting can heal your past, grow your business, and be seen for the first time ever. There have been just incredible stories shared today, so many great insights, and I'm excited to have you on. So can you introduce yourself to our viewers? Just tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Yeah, and hopefully, I think the rain that you're having up there is just hitting us down here in Maryland right now, and I'm hearing the first like thunder booms and things. So hopefully that doesn't affect any of our connectivity.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I love the sound of it too. It's beautiful.
It's a vibe, yeah.
So I'm Teresa Lear-Levine. I am in Maryland currently, where it's raining, and I'm the founder of Becoming More Me. And technically, I'm an EFT master practitioner and an energy strategist, but I work with busy-minded female entrepreneurs, mostly moms, who are wanting to feel better and have greater calm, clarity, and confidence in their life and in their business. So these women also tend to have the common thread of having past traumas that they haven't fully processed or healed from, as well as anxiety that's really kind of tainting their day-to-day life, even when they're not totally conscious of it. And you know, the work that I do has a lot of parallels to the visibility that you're talking about today. In fact, it's interesting because two of my most recent clients were wanting to be in podcasting, and they were having struggles with the things they needed to overcome to get into that. And the work that we did together was able to help them like press record to do their own, or to be able to, go on a show without totally feeling like they were, crumbling when they were doing it. And really, really great ways to increase their consciousness and their awareness around what they were really feeling and what was going on with that. And so I help my clients and my students with a strategic blend of nervous system regulation, coaching, energy work, and accountability. And they're making these internal shifts energetically and having greater awareness around what's really going on. And as they're doing that, they're releasing pain, baggage, negative emotions, learning how to manifest in more effective ways, their biggest goals and dreams with this ease and compassion and joy and self-love. So it's all the things that I've used to help myself. And now I get to help other people do it. And I absolutely love what I do. And I love getting to be able to talk on podcasts about it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. There's always, oh my gosh, I just love this. So I love that you said that. You are so, I was just saying, like, I could barely get the words out. There's always a reason why I'm kind of called to like ask someone to do something like this. And that is it. You are so, and I love that you're our final speaker, because that can really tie all this up with like a nice bow, like the nervous system regulation. Margy and I are obsessed with that. We're like all about nervous system regulation. There's so much fear that can come up. So can you, being an expert in this, really school us on, sort of like, how you help your clients, like what is going on for people when they are just like terrified to go on a podcast? Like, what holds people back kind of nervous system wise?
Well, from a nervous system level, it's that fight or flight, flee, freeze, all those F's that come up for us that sometimes we don't even know why they're coming up. It can be, and we can have worked through things with talk therapy or even on a logical, like thinking it through with our brain level. And yet our nervous system and our body are responding in a totally different way. So oftentimes when I work with people, they might come to me for a whole other reason. And then when we get to talking about other things, I'm like, oh, I've worked through that already. I went to therapy for that for like 10 years in a row. It's all processed. And I'm like, well, your brain may have worked through it, but your body and your nervous system are still like back there. So, and then we start doing that work and like, whoa, like that's the breakthrough that I was missing from before. So it's really just in the layers that we've talked about, throughout your conversations today. It's layers. It's figuring out like, how are you feeling? And then working on it a bit and then figuring out, okay, and what's left now? Okay, let's work on that. Now, how are you feeling and what's left now? And just continuing to move through the different energies that are coming up and the different ways that we can make our nervous system feel more comfortable around that. Because one of the main modalities that I use in my practice is EFT tapping, which stands for emotional freedom techniques. And that allows us to work with the mental, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, all at the same time, and really pull everything together and bypass those thinking part of the brain that, are usually where we go to with therapy, and to get right to that amygdala, that crazy little walnut shaped thing that's hanging out in our brain that's messing everything up for us, and just really calm it all really quickly. And when you can get that kind of rationality and that kind of clarity in like 5 to 10 minutes, like we're not talking about like months, years, like in a few minutes time, and then be able to peel the next layer and the next layer, like it's amazing what you can accomplish in a session, like, because you're just making such quick strides, and they're lasting, because once you get to the root of a problem, when you're regulating your nervous system, it's not coming back. It's not going to get triggered next week and come back. And if it does, you didn't get to the root of it.
Yes. Yeah. That's so interesting. And I love that you talked about EFT tapping. I'd love for you to actually educate people, just like define that for people that don't know. I mean, folks may have seen like just people tapping on YouTube, but they don't understand it. Can you just explain what that modality is and why and how it works so quickly?
Sure. It's a combination of ancient Chinese medicine and modern psychology. So even EFT tapping in the way that we use it these days has been around since like the 90s, and being kind of fine-tuned into what it is now since the 70s. So it's been around a really long time, even in its more modern formats. But what you're doing is you're using your meridian system, which is the system of your body through which your energy, your life force flows. And those are the same points on your body that if you went to see an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, whatever, they're going to work on those, but maybe you're only familiar with using them for physical pain. And when you combine it with the modern psychology and you focus on the problem, which in this whole toxic positivity era, we don't like to, there's no problem. We're just going to focus right on like getting to where we want to be, and we're going to not even gloss over it. That doesn't work. We have to root out the yucky stuff before we can, like, it's like taking the weeds out of the garden before you plant the seeds to grow the flowers. If you grow the flowers in the weeds, you're going to lose sight of all the beauty there because there's weeds everywhere, and they'll quickly get overtaken by the weeds anyway. So we're uprooting the weeds, focusing on the negative while we are tapping these meridian endpoints, which include things like the side of our hand, that karate chop point, the top of our head, areas around our eyes, under our nose, under our mouth, our collarbone area, and under our arms. That's kind of like the 9 major points that when you use those and you use the formula, you can literally improve anything that you can feel. So that means whether it happened in the past, whether you're worried about it happening in the future, whether it's happening right now, and whether it's physical or emotional, even genes, you can alter your genes with this therapy. Like there's nothing that it can't make better. It's crazy because energy is everything.
Yeah. I love that you help moms too, because I've noticed, like, as I've learned how to regulate my nervous system, things are more peaceful with my kids.
Yes.
Because our nervous systems are communicating with each other. And I'm certainly not perfect at it. Like this morning,
Me either.
My fuse is a little bit short, but I like went into my room and I did some neuro drills, I like calmed myself, and then I was able to, but it's so important. And I know that moms are, we are a population that we get dysregulated because we've got little humans that don't quite know how to regulate themselves yet. So that's so amazing that you help moms primarily. You mentioned, Teresa, and sort of like when you explain your business, you said something similar about like being seen. I can't remember the exact phrase, but I'd love for you to talk more about how like the impact that being seen when you're interviewed on podcasts, like what's the impact that that's had on you and your business?
Sure. Well, first of all, podcasting on a more regular schedule has been huge. I was doing a lot of my own booking or having my assistants find bookings for me beforehand. So that meant sometimes I was, doing a show a month. Sometimes it was a couple shows a month. Sometimes it was nothing. But more than that, the topics and the platforms weren't consistent. So I was finding myself using a lot of my valuable energy to come up with ways to speak to that audience, to create something for that show, to do that instead of being able to just talk about the things that are near and dear to me and kind of lather, rinse, repeat. Not that any two shows I ever do are alike, but at least my focus can stay the same when I'm being booked on things that are in alignment with what I want to be doing. And also to know that when they're not in alignment, you guys are like, cool, like we're not going to worry about that one. Like, let's move on. Like you're very respectful of what works and what doesn't. So that's been really helpful. And I had two big goals this year, which were to focus on podcasting as a way to grow my business. And I just launched my own podcast just last year. So I just came, my 1 year anniversary of the Becoming More Me podcast just happened this month. So very exciting. And I wanted to get better with that for my own show and also be more consistent with being on other shows and to use that to develop my story, because writing a book and having that published in some way, shape, or form is also on the list for this year. And I can't tell you how helpful it's been and how happy it's made me to have this as a way to do that. Because when you're talking like all the time, it feels like, I mean, sometimes the shows come in waves and I'm on at least one show a week guesting. And sometimes it can be like 4 or 5 shows a week that I'm guesting. And, when you're getting on all these shows, I'm getting bookings through you guys, but I also have people reaching out to me because they're seeing me on other things. So I don't just get the bookings that I'm, paying for your services to provide, but other things are naturally coming to me because of that increased visibility. So that's pretty awesome. And it's helping me to really develop my story, to learn what I want to teach my audience, and to understand how I want to impact and enrich the lives I get to touch through the interviews, and also to feel abundant about the opportunities that I have to interact. Because when I was only doing, a show here or there, it felt like, oh, I got to get it perfectly right. And, sometimes it would be like an over plan, or, it would feel really cumbersome. And now it's like, okay, so that interview might not have been 100% the way that I wanted it to go, but tomorrow or later today, I have another interview that I'm giving, and I'll just tweak things for that and see if it's better. And maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was anyway. And I'm just being overcritical because we tend to be our own worst critic anyway. But because I get to keep talking, and keep having opportunities, then I don't worry about it as much. And I also don't have time to worry about it as much because I got to get ready for the next thing. So you don't get stuck in that perfectionist loop. I've called myself a recovering perfectionist for a very long time, but it's a never ending recovery. So
yeah, that's so interesting that you said when you were, having your team pitch and book you, and like some months there would be one show, maybe 2, maybe a few in another month, but it was kind of inconsistent. You kind of felt like every show had to really perform because it wasn't that consistent. Whereas when you're doing it really regularly, you don't put it's like you don't have all the eggs in one basket. That's a metaphor I like to use because I got chickens, but it's like, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. And I actually just advised a client who was going to have like an individual landing page for every single show. I was like, that's really not necessary because first of all, it's going to take so much time to update your landing page for every title. But it kind of puts you in this mindset of like judging the performance of each individual podcast, whereas you really should be focusing on podcast guesting as a whole strategy, not how did, Joe's podcast perform for me, So I love that you talked about the importance of like that consistency. And also when you're putting energy into getting visible by investing in like working with us, now you have more of that coming to you. Like you've got people
Yeah.
reaching out to you.
It's very hard when you start comparing one interview against another because the platforms can be very different, being on one show versus on another, different audience, different everything. So I highly recommend don't compare one interview to another for yourself. But, gosh, I mean, the evolution that happens is crazy. I mean, doing all the interviewing allows you, like I said, not to stagnate. And they always say, like, if you want to accomplish a goal, you just have to fail faster and fail more, So if you're looking to do that, and that's evolution, that's just how we evolve. And boy, if you want to watch like growth in action, like go to my podcast website because it's tempting to want to bury some of those old interviews that I did when I first started. But gosh, if you look at like my media appearances page and you go down to some of those first ones and you listen to one of those and then you listen to one from like this month, it's like, I'm like, wow, Teresa, like you've come a long way. And it's the evolution. It's the evolution of a speaker, an energy strategist, an EFT master, a writer, a thinker, an entrepreneur, a mom, a wife, a woman, like all those things happening all at once. And it's pretty cool, really. So I won't bury them or delete them. And I couldn't if I wanted to, because they're not my shows.
I know. I can so relate to that. And in fact, the agency that we work with for our ads, they were like, Jessica, like your highest viewed YouTube videos are ones from 9 years ago. And I'm like, oh dear God, like those are so old. And I'm like, honestly, the content's still good. The tips are the same, but I'm like, it's just, I look different now, right? And then all this negative self-talk comes in. But like you said, I won't ever take those videos down because that is representative of who I was and where I was 9 years ago. I'm here now. And I think the idea that you're going to get to a place where you're perfect and ready to go is just false.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the idea too, with all those layers and stuff, it's we're always going to be evolving. Like I think you said with one of the other people that was on earlier, and I was thinking the same thing when I was thinking about this conversation this morning. And you may think that you've gotten so visible. You may think that like you've stripped off the clothes and you've lost the curtains and you've lost all your cover, and then you realize all you lost was the overcoat. Like, and there's still like, all this stuff. That's still left to go. But it's that way. It's always that way. Like you never get to the bottom of it. You're always evolving into that next version. So I know that like even next year, when I look back at how I'm talking to you today, I'll be like, oh, wow, girl, like you've come a long way because I'm not going to stop. And that's what this allows me to keep doing.
Yes. And I just love the title of your podcast too, because I feel like it's so representative of what I value about podcast guesting. It's just like, you become more of yourself and then you share it because you can like, I guess, become yourself. But then if you don't share it, it's just sort of like doesn't feel real. Do you find that theme with your guests and when you're talking about this? Like, do you find that sharing who you're becoming is a really important part of the equation?
It's such an important part of the equation. And it's such an important part of my own growth and my own ability to be authentic and vulnerable, gosh, if I go back to like my favorite musical, which I can quote for almost anything and relate to anything, Hamilton, and they talk about, in the end, like when you die, you have no control, like who lives, who dies, who tells your story. Well, you know what? We're all here right now and I get to tell my story and I can pull in Eliza and I can put myself back in the narrative and I can make sure that my story gets told the way that I want to while I'm here. And it's for me, podcasting, my business, everything I do is about legacy. And, it's all part of creating that. And this allows me to do that and to have that voice. And as I continue to do it, I tap into more of those things that were hard for me. It's very easy for me to say that, I've transformed my trauma, my ADHD, my high functioning anxiety, and I've learned to unblock my energy. But hey, what was that trauma? What have those challenges been with your ADHD? What are those things that you went through? And, digging into things that I haven't, talked about much before. I mean, gosh, like car accidents that I had when I was in my late teens and early 20s that put me on disability and really, really, impacted my ability to earn money, my feelings about earning money, my ability to be visible, and just all those kinds of things that were part of my story. And, going through a divorce and all the ways that that impacted things, having to move back in with my mom when I was in my 20s with a baby because I was going through this divorce and I was still disabled. And like all those things that just really played into my beliefs about myself and things that I needed to break through, and that I used these very techniques that I help other people put into action in their lives to break through their sorts of things. So just, being able to speak those things out loud now is healing to me. And I know that it's healing to the ears they land upon that need to hear them.
Mic drop. I can't. That was amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's, controlling. You own your story. You tell your story. That is a life-changing message right there. Because, other people will say things about you. I mean, what came to mind when you were saying that, Teresa, was like, we're in a very small industry that's growing. And I think sometimes what can happen in a small industry is like, there can be some not so nice players on the playground who maybe say things about you, but it's like when you own your narrative and you get visibility, you can crush any other narratives that aren't correct about you. So get out there and own your story and share it, because I don't know what the Hamilton quote was. I'm thinking of it, but like, what is it? Who's going to tell your story?
Who lives, who dies, who tells your story?
Yes. That, oh my God, that's so powerful. Well,
yeah, I mean, because I can fast forward now, like to all the comebacks, all the reimaginings that I've been through that have gotten me to present day. And I can be really proud of the journey, and the low points and everything, because it's easier to see how they're all part of the greater success story, the greater impact that I'm able to create with my greater consciousness and visibility. And that makes it easier to navigate current life challenges because they never go away. It's not like, hey, I had this story, now everything's peachy and we live happily ever after. There's always things to work on, which is why the modalities that I teach and coach, I feel, are so important, because you can use these until, life is over, and, you will find something that you can transform every single day with them. But, it's like I'm happily married and I have a beautiful family and marriage and a great business that keeps me excited, fulfilled, and engaged. But I still have parenting blunders and highs and lows in my marriage and all sorts of challenges being a mompreneur and trying to find balance in so many different delicate things and areas of my life. I have ADHD, wouldn't wish it away, but it still does have challenges. I have high functioning anxiety, and I have traumas that I'm still working on healing in any kind of full way. And life's going to have that kind of stuff, and being better equipped to handle it and be able to serve other people from that place is, and how I choose to believe these things and the thoughts that I choose are just, they're so important. And that's all stuff that I get to talk about on podcasts and that I get to grow from and help other people grow from, because I'm willing to sit here and have a chat.
So powerful. Teresa, this was absolutely incredible. What you shared was so powerful, so transformational. Thank you for coming and spending your time with us today. Where can our viewers connect with you if they feel like that you could help them?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, Jessica. I appreciate it. And I'd say my website's probably the best place to go if you want to find all the things, teresalearlevine.com, or you can go right to the podcast website if you wanted to look at my crazy history and evolution, and that's becomingmoreme.com. And those are great places to check things out.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Teresa. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. All right. Oh my gosh, this has been an incredible almost 3 hours today. I am just so energized by everyone that has spoken today, everyone who has shared. I'm so grateful to all of our speakers. We'll make sure that they're tagged in the replay post and everything so you can easily find them and connect with them. If you were moved, if you were inspired and motivated to have a visibility breakthrough, if anything that you heard today inspired you and struck a chord, then this is your sign. Go to interviewconnections.com/contact, fill out a brief form and schedule a consultation call. You'll get all the details of our service. We've been talking about it throughout this live stream. go ahead and schedule a consultation call, get in communication with our team. You'll have a call. Like I said, I try to get on as many consults as possible as my schedule allows, but you'll get on the phone with a member of our team, Matt or Sammy, and we'll answer all of your questions and help you have that visibility breakthrough. As I mentioned, the investment is $2,500 a month. We've got payment plans. We have a couple different levels. So we'll talk through what size package is right for you. And there is a significant discount if you pay in full. So I just wanted to give you an idea of the investment. If you are ready to have a visibility breakthrough, you've been holding back, there's reasons and considerations, and you're like, all right, I've listened to all these amazing speakers. I really relate to them. I'm going to follow in their footsteps. Go ahead, interviewconnections.com/contact, fill out that form, schedule a consultation call, and let's get you your visibility breakthrough. Have a great Monday, everyone.